Chapter 1641. When this voice fell, Lu Xing was a little surprised. Could it be that the people who came were not his people? When this person walked in, all the mysteries were revealed. Xiao Su stepped on the wooden planks and walked in with a cold aura. Behind him were Ji Lin Yang, Hua Ling, Ethereal, and the rest. When Xiao Su's voice sounded, little Ankong had already opened his eyes and called out Daddy in surprise. When Xiao Yao saw the reinforcements, he relaxed. However, when his royal brother looked over coldly, he felt that he had heaved a sigh of relief a little too early. I told you to look after Kong Kong, but you brought him here to take risks. Go back and think about how to explain it to me. Xiao Yao immediately revealed a flattering smile. Royal brother, I didn't do it on purpose, but there was no one by my side, so I couldn't just let Kong Kong go. When he said this, Hua Ling glared at him with eyes full of resentment. If not for Second Master bringing Little Master to play hide and seek with them, how could they have lost him? You're right. Xiao Su snorted coldly. Xiao Yao chuckled, but his smile was a little guilty. As for the Yu clan members who saw Xiao Yao for the first time, they had just been subdued by his powerful fighting strength. Now that they saw him like this, they couldn't help but be shocked. Was this person the same person who saved them just now? They were very suspicious. Lu Xing saw that they were talking to each other and did not put him in their eyes at all. He was angry and angry. Why are you people ruining my plans again? What good things do you have? You're bullying my people with numbers, and you still have a nerve? Xiao Su's gaze swept over coldly. Lu Xing's legs went soft, and when he realized his weakness, he couldn't help but fiercely despise himself in his heart. How could he be scared by this brat? However, if Lu Xing knew his identity, he wouldn't think so. The man standing in front of him was once a general of millions of soldiers. He was an ambitious king who rebuked a region. He was the emperor of the 9-5. Rome wasn't built in a day. The coldness in his eyes was accumulated from years of bloody battles. The number of people who died under his hands was probably more than the number of people he had seen. You still dare to spout nonsense in my territory. You're simply tired of living. When my people arrive, I'll see if you can still laugh. In front of his subordinates, Lu Xing knew that he could not be cowardly, otherwise his morale would be gone. Furthermore, his men would arrive very soon. Following Xiao Su's line of sight, Lu Xing had a bad premonition. Through the broken window, he saw a group of black-clothed people stacked on the deck like a human pyramid. Weren't those his people? What have you done? His momentum was gone. Lu Xing was like an arrow at the end of its flight. He glared at these people who had suddenly appeared. Hua Ling led his men to detain everyone present. Lu Xing wanted to make a final struggle, but he was subdued by Xiao Yao's sword. Lu Xing was forced to kneel on the ground. He raised his head and said unwillingly, "This clearly has nothing to do with you. Why did you interfere? If Gong Suanxue died, wouldn't that be exactly what you wanted? The Sun Moon Clan and Sun Clan are at odds. If you help Gong Suanxue, isn't that the same as letting a tiger return to the mountain?" Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. "You talk too much." Hua Ling then took off Lu Xing's boots and stuffed them in his mouth. Xiao Yao clapped his hands and cheered. "Our Xiao clan has always done things according to our wishes. As long as we're happy, don't try to sow discord. Your skills are too lacking." When Ethereal came in, it had already detoxified everyone. Now, Gong Suanxue, Qiu Feng, and the others could move freely. At this time, someone came forward and took the token from Lu Xing. After Qiu Feng verified it, she slapped him and scolded, "Shameless. Even a toad wants to eat swan meat." This slap and scolding made Xiao Yao feel good. He had long wanted to kick her a few times, but after considering his image, he gave up. At this time, Xiao Su walked over and directly carried his son away. He coldly ordered, "Tear it down." After saying this, he left. This ship was perfectly fine. Why did you tear it down? Because Xiao Yao had saved them. Qiu Feng didn't have many misunderstandings and asked curiously. Xiao Yao shook his hands and moved his shoulders. It had been a long time since he had done such a big thing. His entire body was sore. When he heard Qiu Feng's question, he smiled and replied, "The reason is very simple. It's because of Kong Kong. I don't like this ship. tearing the ship down without a word. This really was his royal brother's temper. However, when he thought of the look his royal brother gave him before he left, he suddenly felt a little hopeless. When he returned, would his royal brother also tear him down like he did the ship? After all, he was the one who put Kong Kong in danger. Forget it, forget it. Let's not think about it. He turned his head and saw the person talking to his subordinate. He smiled faintly. Fortunately, she was fine. Gongsun Shui turned her head as if she sensed something. When their eyes met, she was slightly stunned. However, Xiao was a little embarrassed and wanted to look away. She gave some instructions to her subordinates and walked towards him. When Ethereal saw this scene, he patted Xiao's shoulder when he passed by. Second Master, do your best. Fire Spirit was also like a cannon. Second Master, do your best. Ji Linyang, who was watching from the side, was also the same. Second Young Master Xiao, do your best. Thus, everyone retreated, except for Xiao Lai Qi, who stayed behind to tear down the ship. Xiao's mouth twitched. This group of people didn't mind watching the show. At this time, Gongsun Shui was already standing in front of him. Seeing that his expression was a little strange, she put aside the words she had prepared and asked in confusion, "What's wrong with you?" Xiao's mouth twitched. He couldn't tell her that those people were cheering for him and laughing at his mother, right? He regained his composure and said with a smile, "It's nothing. Are your people all right?" Gongsun Shui shook her head. "You came just in time. They weren't hurt." She paused, and a slight ripple appeared in her eyes. She smiled gently. "It's all thanks to you just now. I'm very grateful." Xiao was very satisfied that he was able to be the hero who saved the beauty. Now that he received the Ice Beauty's gratitude, he was practically bursting with joy. Moreover, it was rare to get the Ice Beauty to smile. He felt that even if he died here today, it would be worth it. However, he didn't show it on his face. He pretended to be indifferent and acted like a gentleman. He waved his hand. "This is a small matter. Don't take it to heart." Just as he wanted to show his elegance, Qing Yu and the others hurried over and joined them. They were blaming themselves and asking for forgiveness. Gongsun Shui comforted them with a few words. Xiao was a little dissatisfied that his time alone with the Ice Beauty was interrupted. However, he couldn't do anything about it and could only watch from the side. Qing Yu's impression of Xiao was that he was from the Japanese clan. She looked at him with vigilance and then said to her sect master, "Sect master, should we go back as soon as possible?" Xiao, who had been listening to their conversation, heard this and his face fell. The Ice Beauty was leaving? He hadn't even talked to her properly yet. Gongsun Shui glanced at Xiao's sad face from the corner of her eye and felt inexplicably good. Chapter 1642. Hearing that Green Jade was about to leave, Xiaofeng immediately presented the token that he had just brought back to his sect master. "I have confirmed that this is the token that we lost." Gongsun Shui took the token and glanced at it before putting it in her sleeve. "Very good. Thank you for your hard work. It's already late. We have been on the move for several days. Sect master should be tired. Why don't you rest for a night in Bright Jade City before returning?" Xiaofeng followed Green Jade's question and suggested. Gongsun Shui glanced at her subordinates, who had been working day and night, and felt that it made sense. She nodded and accepted Xiaofeng's suggestion. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. At least they weren't leaving so quickly. He walked over and said to Gongsun Shui, "The people from Flowing Cloud Pavilion have been subdued. What do you plan to do with them?" Gongsun Shui said to Green Jade, "Go and take them over. Take my token and lock them up in the city's prison. They will be escorted back to the capital tomorrow." Green Jade nodded and went to hand over the task to Hua. Ling Xiaofeng saw that the two seemed to have something to say, so he led the rest of the people away and stood guard somewhere else. Soon, there was no one around Xiao and Gongsun Shui. "Why did you leave with so few people this time? If I didn't happen to pass by, for safety's sake, you should bring more people with you in the future." Xiao coughed softly and looked away unnaturally. Gongsun Shui knew that he was concerned about her. She nodded. "I will be careful in the future." "All right, why are you here?" And it seemed that the people from the Xiao family were all here. She couldn't help but be curious. After saying this, she thought of their situation and added, I don't mean anything else. If it's inconvenient, you don't have to tell me. Xiao looked at her with amusement. Don't be so sensitive. We didn't come here to do anything bad. There's nothing inconvenient about it. We found the remains of my brother's subordinate who died in battle many years ago. We suspect that he is still alive, so we came to find him. A subordinate? Gongsun and Xiao was surprised. You risked your lives to come here for him? The war between the Sun-Moon race and the Sun-Moon race was on the verge of breaking out, yet they had actually come here without any regard for their own safety. No, that cold-looking big brother of the Xiao clan was actually so loyal and righteous. Xiao could tell what she was thinking from her surprise. He smiled. Are you surprised that my big brother looks so unreasonable? She felt that she was making a fuss over nothing and couldn't help but say, I didn't mean anything else. I know you don't have any other intentions. Didn't I say that you don't have to be so cautious? We're all friends. Before she could reply, Xiao continued to speak. Actually, some people are not as they appear to be. My big brother is the most flesh and blood person I've ever seen in this world. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to live so carefree and not have to manage the family business. Listening to his self-talk, Gongsun Shui looked at his handsome side profile and thought to herself, you are not what you appear to be. You look like a sloppy person, but you are actually a responsible person. So, just treat him as an ordinary person. As long as you don't touch his bottom line, everything is negotiable. Gongsun Shui was curious. What's your big brother's bottom line? Xiao said without hesitation, my sister-in-law and nephew. Gongsun Shui nodded in understanding. She could tell that Xiao Su cared a lot about his wife and son. Her gaze fell on the huge ship that had been dismantled. Don't blame him for wanting to dismantle the ship just now. Hearing this, Xiao felt a chill run down his spine. He hoped that when he returned, his royal brother would see that Xiao and Kong was unharmed and let him go. Xiao, thank you so much for today. I didn't expect that after that incident, you would still stand up and help me. Gongsun Shui stood on the shore and pressed down her hair that was blown by the wind. She smiled gently. When she saw him appear like a god, she was both surprised and pleasantly surprised. Xiao waved his hand. That's a different matter. I'm not the kind of person who acts on impulse. Gongsun Shui smiled faintly. The wind was a bit strong at this time, causing their clothes to flutter. A handsome man and a beautiful woman. It was a very eye-catching scene, but there would always be a time when they had to part. A trace of reluctance flashed in her eyes, but she quickly suppressed it. She looked at her subordinate, standing not far away, and her smile disappeared. She said to Xiao with a calm and distant expression, It's getting late. We have to go. I will remember today's kindness in my heart. If there's anything you need in the future, as long as I can do it, I will do my best. Then we'll meet again. The person he missed dearly was about to leave. Xiao was very reluctant, but seeing her distant expression and the fact that he didn't know what reason he could use to make her stay, he just stood there in a daze, unable to say a single word. Huoling, who had just dismantled the ship, walked over and heard Gongsun Shui's words. He blinked. The duck that had been cooked by the second master was about to fly away. The normally eloquent second master had dropped the ball at this time. He turned his eyes and immediately walked over. Second master, what happened to your hand? Are you hurt? Why is it bleeding? Huoling was simply a godly assist. Xiao had been immersed in the joy of seeing the ice beauty and hadn't noticed that he was injured. When he heard Huoling shout that he wanted everyone to hear, he finally felt a slight pain in his arm. His eyes lit up. Huoling's shout had come at the right time. He raised his injured hand. Because his winter clothes were rather thick, the blood only came out now. It seemed like he had taken a sword strike to protect Kong. But no matter what, he was injured for the ice beauty. She wouldn't leave him be injured, right? I'm really injured. It hurts so much. Xiao pitifully cried out in Gongsun Shui's direction. Huoling's lips twitched. Second master, your acting skills are too exaggerated. Hearing that Xiao was injured, Gongsun Shui immediately stopped in her tracks and quickly walked over. Looking at his arm that was soaked in blood, a trace of pain flashed through her eyes. She didn't expect him to be injured so badly. You have to apply medicine quickly. She looked at Huo Ling as she spoke. She had come in a hurry and didn't have any medicine on her, so she placed her hopes on Huo Ling. Huo Ling immediately waved his hand. We didn't bring any either, but that's fine. The place we live is quite close to here, so we'll go back together. Xiao felt that Huo Ling's words were simply too much to his liking. That's right. Moreover, the inn we live in is very big, so you can all rest there for a night. Gong Sun Shue's attention had been completely pulled away by the bloody sleeve, so she just nodded no matter what they said. Only when they returned to the inn did she suddenly react. Why did she follow them in a daze? It didn't matter if she didn't come. In the end, she could only let out a long sigh. Forget it. Let's just leave it like this. Chapter 1643. Chu Qingyan and the others were not surprised by the arrival of Gong Sun Xue and the others. This was because on the way back, she had already heard about it from Big Ice Cube. Adding on her son's vivid description of the shocking scene, she found that Xiao was truly moved by Gong Sun Xue. Otherwise, he would not have put himself in danger. So she gave the order and ordered people to prepare a place for them to stay. Everything was normal, and they did not show any surprise because of their arrival. Because of what happened in the Xiao family, Gong Sun Xue was still a bit worried about how to face them. She never thought that they would treat her the same as before. She couldn't help but feel grateful. Because Xiao was injured, he was quickly sent back to his room. After Xiao Su, Chu Qingyan, and the others expressed their concern for him, they left. They left some time and space for the two of them. Ethereal came in with a plate with medicine and gauze on it. Before Gong Sun Xue could speak, he put down the plate and said that he was tired from the night and wanted to go back to rest. He would leave everything to her. Then he gave a yawn and ran away. Gong Sun Xue was stunned. Were these people all loaches? They ran away so quickly. Xiao saw this scene and couldn't help smiling. It's fine, I can take care of it myself. I've bandaged myself many times before. When he was about to get up, Gong Sun Xue stopped him and ordered sit down. Xiao rubbed his nose and watched her turn to get the medicine. Gong Sun Xue sat down in front of him and had him stretch out his hand. Because the temperature was low in the winter, the blood had already coagulated. The clothes were stuck to the wound, so she had to cut the clothes and then clean the wound. Just as she was thinking about needing hot water, Huo Ling knocked on the door and brought the hot water in. After putting it down, he also ran away. Xiao found it funny in his heart. In order to set him up with the ice beauty, everyone was sparing no effort. Am I that scary? Gong Sun Xue was confused. Although there were people who said that she was scary when she had a stern face, it was not to the extent that she could scare people away. Xiao pretended to think seriously before saying, "You're not that scary, but if you can eat Chong Xiao, perhaps everyone will like you even more. They will like you even more." Gong Sun Xue's attention was fixed on the word more. She was a little stunned. You mean they don't hate me? Not only do they not hate you, they like you very much. However, Xiao was too embarrassed to say this. He coughed lightly and said, "Well, they don't hate you. You don't have to worry that your identity will affect your interactions with them. We're not the kind of people who care about identity." Gong Sun Xue's eyes lit up. She immediately thought of the time when they were in the cabin. He had called himself king, which meant that this person's status was not low. She felt that he was a mystery, and she couldn't help but want to find out more about him. However, she knew that she was in no position to ask him. Obviously feeling that she was not in a good mood, Xiao thought that he had said something wrong. When she was cleaning his wound, he did not dare to say a word, fearing that he would make more mistakes. The sword wound looked a little hideous, but it was not very serious. Gong Sun Xue heaved a sigh of relief. She helped him apply medicine and then tied it with gauze. When she was tying the knot, she found that there was more than one scar on his arm. Looking at the depth of the scar, she could tell that it was an injury from many years ago. However, it was obvious that the injury was very serious. If it was not for the fact that the skin and flesh were torn open, there would not be a scar after so many years. Your injuries, seeing her gaze stop at the past scars on his arm, Xiao explained indifferently. I was disobedient in the past, so I was beaten. How is that disobedient? There is a kind of punishment in this world. It was called "I Feel That You Are Disobedient, So You Should Be Punished." Back then, Consort Yu was flaunting her power in the harem, but she did not give birth to any children. Therefore, the concubines of the princes in the palace were the first to be an eyesore to her. Every day, she would find trouble with his mother. He was young and did not understand the twists and turns of this, so naturally, he would protect his mother. Consort Yu had even more reason to say that he had offended her and ordered him to be beaten to death. If his imperial brother had not passed by and saved him, he would have been beaten to death. Hearing his understatement, Gongsun Shui pursed her lips. Who would beat someone to death just because they were disobedient? What he had experienced back then was probably not that simple. Oh right, as the leader of a clan, shouldn't you live like a prince? Why are you so skilled at bandaging wounds? Don't tell me you secretly practiced it. Gongsun Shui said, self-deprecatingly. There were times before I became the sect leader. Back then, there was no daylight, and the feeling was indescribable. Hearing this, Xiao's expression became serious. How could he forget that every person in power had to go through all kinds of hardships before they obtained all of it? It was not easy to be the emperor. He knew how difficult his imperial brother had been in those years, and this woman in front of him was clearly a lot of hardships. He could not help but feel pity for her. It seems that we are in the same boat, Xiao joked, wanting to break the sad atmosphere. That's true. Gongsun Shui finished tying the knot and looked at him. All right, thank you for today. Rest early and recover well. With that, she stood up and prepared to leave. After spending so much effort to bring her back, how could he let her go just like that? Wait! Gongsun Shui was stopped by this hurried shout. She turned to look at him in confusion. Is there anything else? Xiao called out in a moment of impulse. Seeing that she had returned to her cold self, the words that he wanted to say to make her stay were stuck in his throat. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Xiao immediately responded, Come in. Jasper pushed the door open and came in, holding a plate in her hands. On the plate was a bowl of hot porridge. She said to Xiao, Master said that you have lost so much blood and need medicine to nourish your body. He specially asked the kitchen to make ginseng medicinal porridge for you. He hopes that you can drink it while it's hot. Thanks, sister-in-law, for me. Xiao smiled. Jasper nodded and placed the plate in Gongsun Shui's hands. She said respectfully, My young master said that second young master was injured because of you. He hopes that you can take care of him and finish this porridge. With that, she turned and left without waiting for Gongsun Shui's response, leaving behind a bowl of hot porridge and staring at Gongsun Shui. What the hell is this? If not for the Ice Beauty's presence, Xiao would have laughed to the sky. His imperial brother really understood his feelings. As expected of his biological brother, he tried hard to suppress his laughter and smugness. With an embarrassed expression, he said, Don't mind him. My imperial brother is quite protective. Gongsun Shui raised her eyebrows. He was indeed protective. She is sect master, had to serve someone. Can you eat it yourself? With that, she saw him holding his hand with a troubled expression. I can't move it. It hurts too much. Gongsun Shui facepalmed. She really owed him. Chapter 1644. Chu Qingyan looked outside the door worriedly. Xiao Su was feeding his son. Seeing her like this, he said calmly, Are you worried? Yes, I'm a little worried. I wonder how second brother and Miss Gongsun are getting along. Chu Qingyan spread out one hand and clenched her other hand into a fist. It was obvious that she was worried. Xiao Su continued to feed his son calmly. Seeing that he did not reply, Chu Qingyan looked over. Why aren't you anxious at all? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. What's there to be anxious about? He's the one looking for a wife, not me. He should be the one who should be anxious. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan only thought of one thing. A full man does not know the suffering of a hungry man. She chuckled at him. Is there an older brother like you? You don't even think about your younger brother's lifelong happiness? Xiao Su took a handkerchief from the side and wiped his son's mouth. He sneered at the little fellow's accusation. If it wasn't for him, I would have skinned him alive for what he did today. Xiao Kong swallowed the soup in his mouth and looked up at his mother. Daddy said that Ursu doesn't do things properly and wants to punish him. Indeed, his son was like his father. He had imitated his tone 70% to 80%. Chu Qingyin could not help but stroke his head lovingly. Today, her second son had brought her son into danger and witnessed the killing and bloodshed that she did not want him to come into contact with so early. When she received the news, she was very afraid that Kong Kong would be injured and traumatized. When Big Ice Cube brought him back, he was completely unharmed and could even smile and ask for hugs. Only then did she feel relieved. However, she was still worried and could not help but ask, "Are you afraid of seeing such a scary scene today?" Xiao Kong widened his eyes and looked indescribably cute and playful. He shook his head. Baby is not afraid. Ursu will protect Baby, and Baby knows that Daddy and Mommy will come, so Baby is not afraid. When Chu Qingyin heard this, she burst into tears for her son's trust. Children's words were the most sincere expression of emotions. She was both gratified and moved. Little Kong saw that his mother's eyes were red, and he reached out to hug her neck. He pressed his little face against her face and imitated the way his father coaxed his mother. He spoke gently, "Mother, don't be sad. Baby is fine. Baby will protect you in the future. Baby won't take this small matter to heart. Baby loves Mother very, very much. Mother must be happy." Since he was born, he had grown up in the palace and was surrounded by hot-blooded men. Little Kong spoke with the magnanimity of a general. When he opened his mouth, he would say protect, and when he closed his mouth, he would say I don't care about small matters. However, this made him seem more sensible and lovable. She didn't know if it was because she was pregnant, but her crying rate was particularly low, or if it was because her son's words had touched her soft heart. But the tears that had accumulated in the corners of her eyes flowed down, just like that. "Good child. Mother also loves you very, very much." Xiao Su, who was holding a bowl at the side, had a dark expression on his face. This brat had made his mother cry again. The person whom he usually cared for and doted on in the palm of his hand was crying just like that. Forget it, forget it. Seeing what happened today, he wouldn't argue with this brat. Although that was what he thought, Xiao Su still couldn't help but walk forward and hug the mother and daughter. "Don't cry. With me here, no one will dare to bully you." Who would dare to touch the people that he, Xiao Su, was protecting? The family of three hugged each other harmoniously. However, a discordant sound was heard. Goo goo goo. The two of them turned to look at their son. Little Kong scratched his ears and cheeks. This kind of thing that ruined his demeanor was really embarrassing. "Mother, let's hug later. Baby isn't full yet." Chu Qingyin smiled through her tears and pushed the person beside her. "Hurry up and feed your son." Xiao Su had no way to refute. He took the bowl and continued to serve his son. In the past, when they were in the palace, Little Kong did not have such benefits. In order to be able to straighten out the matters in the imperial court as soon as possible and nurture a scapegoat, oh no, nurture a successor, Xiao Su had always been very busy. Even if he had free time, he would spend it on his wife. He had always felt that there were too many people around his son. If he also circled around him, he would probably spoil his son to the heavens. Therefore, he had always appeared as a strict father. So much so that in front of others, Little Kong would naturally accept all the doting, such as needing someone to feed him when he ate, dress him, and so on. But as long as it was in front of his father, he would rely on himself, eat by himself, and do things by himself. In the past, Chu Qingyin would complain that he didn't love his son enough and that he didn't like him. Later on, when she saw her son's performance in front of him, she understood that because her son was the only child by her side, there were too many people who doted on him. Therefore, someone had to play the bad guy, otherwise the child would be lawless. Big Ice Cube didn't love less than others. It was just that he kept his love in his heart and didn't show it on the surface. And this time, it was a complete accident. Because his son had just returned from the Azura field, Xiao Su's entire heart had been broken into pieces for him. So, before his wife had even picked up the spoon, he had already volunteered to take on the task of feeding her. Little Kong was very flattered. He secretly sized up his father while enjoying his father's service. In his memory, the time when his father doted on him the most was when he was still an infant. But ever since he could walk, he had never felt his father's love. Today, he especially cherished it. In the past, he would still wonder if his father didn't love him. Later on, his mother told him that his father loved him very much, but the way he expressed it was different. Although he was ignorant and didn't know what his mother meant, he knew that his father doted on him a lot, and that was enough. Little Kong pointed at the bowl. "Father, I don't want to eat the green pepper." After saying that, he shrank his head. He thought that his father would scold him, but he didn't expect his father to pause and then put the green pepper on another plate. You don't have to eat it today." He knew that many children didn't like to eat green pepper. That was what his grandfather told him. But he liked to eat green pepper. He just saw that along the way, the children's fathers would try all kinds of ways to coax them to eat whatever they didn't like to eat. He felt that the atmosphere today was so good that his father might coax him, so he acted coquettishly. Who knew? He stared at the green pepper lying miserably on the plate. Why didn't his father act according to the rules? "I really want to eat green pepper, resentment. I really want to eat green pepper, resentment." However, Little Kong didn't understand. This was also his father's way of doting on him. If it was any other time, he would definitely let him eat it, but today was different. Xiao thought, this brat actually dares to be picky, but seeing that he has suffered today, if he doesn't want to eat, then so be it. "I love you very much, but the way I pamper you is different from others. A man of iron is gentle." Chapter 1645. Xiao had finished all the things that he rarely did today. Feeding his son, bathing his son, coaxing his son to sleep. He was simply a 24 filial father. Perhaps it was because he was tired today, but although little Kong wanted to stay with him for a while longer, he could not resist the sleepiness and gradually fell asleep. "I realize that my son really likes to stay with you." Chu Qingyan leaned against the bedpost and smiled as she watched him cover her son with a blanket. Such a gentle ice cube. If it was in the past when she did not know him, she would have thought that he was a battlefield Azura just by hearing his name. He did not know how to smile, nor was he gentle. He was cold and only knew how to fight and kill. People always liked to imagine too many things and use the one-sided things they knew to measure others. Fortunately, the heavens gave them a chance and gave them time to interact with each other. Bit by bit, she discovered that under the hard armor, he had a soft heart. Xiao pulled the blanket up to his son's neck and stuffed his two little hands under the blanket. He touched his forehead, then straightened up and looked back at her with a fierce gaze. "I also realized it, so after dealing with these matters, I planned to bring him by my side and personally teach him." Until now, his son had looked at him with admiration, respect, love, and dependence. It was something that he rarely noticed. It could be seen that in the past year, his son had yearned for his company, which was why he was so careful and did not dare to say it out loud. He suddenly wondered if he was too strict with Kong, so much so that his son yearned for his company so much. He thought back to when he was young. He did not understand the matters between his father and mother, nor did he understand the complicated relationships in the imperial court. He only wanted to get his father's attention. At that time, his father was cold to him, and he still remembered it. The image of a strict father that he had deliberately created might have been successful, but in his heart, he should also give his child more care. Perhaps it was time to bring him by his side. There were some things that the little fellow could not teach him, so he had to be responsible. When Chu Qingyan heard his words, she immediately raised both hands and feet in agreement. A son would only be able to learn more if he stayed by his father's side. Moreover, this big ice cube was basically an all-round genius. It was simply too good for a son to be his student. "Big ice cube, I'm so happy that you can think like this. Today, in the carriage, I was racking my brains to think of a way to make you agree. I didn't expect you to take the initiative to bring it up." Chu Qingyan's eyes were sparkling. It was obvious that she was in a very good mood. Xiao tucked her in and caressed her face. Kong is my son. I care about him as much as anyone else." Chu Qingyan nodded heavily. She knew it. Because it was still early, the two of them got up and left the room. They sat in the living room next door. At this time, Jasper came back to report. "Master, this subordinate has already brought the porridge to second master's room." Chu Qingyan nodded, then couldn't help but gossip. "Then what's the situation in second master's room?" Jasper replied. When this subordinate went in, Miss Gongsun had already bandaged Second Master's wound. This subordinate conveyed Your Highness's words without missing a word. After putting down the tray, this subordinate left immediately, not daring to linger. Chu Qingyin rubbed her chin and chuckled. Not bad, not bad. You did very well. Xiao Su ordered, have the kitchen serve dinner. Jasper obeyed and left. Because of tonight's unexpected incident, the original plan to go to the snack street fell through. Everyone returned to the inn to eat. Chu Qingyin sat on a chair with one hand on the table and the other supporting her chin. She looked curiously at the person opposite her. Xiao Su took a sip of tea. Sensing her gaze, he put down the teacup and looked up. What's wrong? Chu Qingyin looked at him with her other hand. When you came back, you said you were going to punish second brother. I didn't expect you to send porridge over in the blink of an eye. You even asked Jasper to pass on those words. I'm very surprised. Xiao Su put down his teacup and clasped his hands on his knees. He said disapprovingly, that's because I draw a clear line between public and private matters. I won't use my personal emotions on official matters. Draw a clear line between public and private matters? She was very curious about his explanation. Big Ice Cube is really too understanding of the greater good. But which one is public and which one is private? Xiao Su narrowed his eyes and chuckled. Public is naturally the matter of that rascal chasing his wife. Private is the matter of bringing Kong Kong into a dangerous place without permission. You can't mix public and private matters. Anyway, he's right in front of you. There's no need to worry about him running away. If you want to punish him, you can do it any time. This was the first time she heard someone treat her younger brother's pursuit of a girl as official matters. Chu Qingyin expressed that more than 1 billion people were shocked. This was an implicit expression. A more down-to-earth expression would be, holy shit. Xiao Su saw his wife's round eyes and couldn't help but laugh. He reached out and rubbed her head. Don't forget, you promised Imperial Grandfather that you would help second brother find a wife. This matter is official matters in our Xiao family. I'm just helping you. Otherwise, if these two don't work out, you'll have to cry to me in the future. Chu Qingyin just remembered this. Last time, she had solemnly promised Imperial Grandfather that she would help Xiao Yao find a girlfriend. Now was the perfect opportunity. She almost missed it. Big Ice Cube was awesome. He even thought of it for her. Yes, yes, yes. Big Ice Cube, you're so nice. You thought of things that I didn't think of. I simply love you to death. She was not stingy. She straightened up and gave him a kiss of love. Xiao Su enjoyed the beauty's favor. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a thought-provoking smile. In fact, he didn't just want to sell this single dog for the Xiao family. Most importantly, the little fellow was already pregnant. He didn't want her to worry about other men's matters every day, even if this person was his own brother. In the future, you don't have to worry about second brother's matters. If I can help, I will try my best. You just have to focus on taking care of the baby. Chu Qingyin's eyes immediately lit up. She had really found an incomparably considerate husband. In the future, she only had to be responsible for eating, drinking, and sleeping. However, since the Big Ice Cube was so awesome, she should do something. Between husband and wife, how could they always enjoy each other's efforts with a clear conscience and enjoy the fruits of others' labor? She held his hand and said generously, Big Ice Cube, in view of your outstanding performance today, I have decided to reward you. Tell me what you want. As long as I can do it, I will definitely satisfy you. Xiao Su's eyes flashed, revealing a bright light. He held his little wife's hand back, interlocking their fingers, propped himself up, and whispered into her ear, There's one thing that you can definitely do. Satisfy me. She was encouraged, and her eyes lit up. Speak. He chuckled and whispered in her ear, Let's try that position. The last words were really embarrassing. Chu Qingyin stared at him blankly. Her face flushed red. Didn't my wife say just now that whatever I want, as long as you can do it, you will definitely satisfy me? Xiao Su played with her fingers and returned her words. She really wanted to eat back her words, but her face was red as she gritted her teeth and said, Yes. Xiao Su kissed her on the cheek. My wife is so righteous. Chu Qingyin wanted to cry in her heart. She had dug a hole for herself, and even if she cried, she had to fill it up. Chapter 1646. Xiao sneezed and felt a chill down his spine. He had a premonition that something was waiting for him. Gongsun Shui was holding a bowl with a spoon in her hand. She didn't know what to do when she heard him sneeze. She couldn't help but ask, "Did you catch a cold?" "No, I have a feeling that someone is talking bad about me behind my back." Xiao rubbed his nose. Perhaps it was because he was injured, but his tone sounded a little aggrieved. Gongsun Shui glanced at him. "You've done too many bad things." Xiao expressed his innocence. He waited for a long time, but the ice beauty didn't feed him. He coughed softly. "The porridge should be cold." Gongsun Shui was a little helpless. "It's my first time feeding someone." Xiao immediately added, "It's not my first time being fed." Gongsun Shui's expression became a little strange. He felt that something was wrong and immediately explained, "Don't misunderstand. I'm talking about my mother." "Oh no, my mother. When I was sick in the past, she was the one who fed me food and medicine." Before she could say anything, he had already started babbling. She scooped up a spoon and stuffed it into his mouth. All right, his ears were clear. Xiao almost choked when the porridge was stuffed into his mouth. However, he was afraid that if he coughed, she wouldn't feed him anymore. He resisted the itch in his throat and swallowed the porridge. Although Gongsun Shui said that she could take care of herself, it was a different story when it came to taking care of others. It was really hard to bear this beauty's kindness. It wasn't too big that he almost choked. It was just that the porridge flowed down his neck. There were all kinds of funny little episodes. Gongsun Shui was a little unnatural at first. After all, it was her first time feeding someone. As she fed, she got used to it. Eating a bowl of porridge was more tiring than fighting a battle. Seeing her put the bowl back on the plate, Xiao looked at her back and felt an inexplicable excitement. How rare! The ice beauty was feeding him personally. If it was before, he wouldn't even dare to think about it. The burning gaze behind her made Gongsun Shui a little uncomfortable. However, she wasn't a shy person. She turned around and said to him, "I'll leave first." Since his injuries were already bandaged and he had eaten, there was no need for her to stay here any longer. He should also rest. "Miss Gongsun," she was stopped by him. "Is there anything else?" Xiao had a lot of things to say, but he didn't know where to start. When she stood in front of him, he couldn't even ask her a single word, let alone say anything. He had been completely taken advantage of. "Are you going back to the capital tomorrow?" He chose a conservative question. Gongsun Shui didn't answer. "We're also going to the capital. Why don't we travel together?" After saying that, Xiao really admired his own cleverness. Gongsun Shui looked at him suspiciously. Who was the one who couldn't even lift his hand to eat? TT is ST. Hearing her answer, Xiao almost jumped 3 feet high, but she was still in front of him, so he had to be reserved. Gongsun Shui didn't say anything this time. She just turned and left. When she opened the door, the person leaning against the door had no support. He fell into the room. Gongsun Shui raised her eyebrows. She crossed her arms and looked at the person on the bed. Xiao was still immersed in his self-satisfaction. He was shocked by this scene. He was instantly in heaven and then in hell. "Grandfather, old Master Chu, Hualing, ethereal, Yen Luo, what are you doing?" The Emperor Emeritus crawled up. He straightened his clothes and coughed. "Stinky brat, aren't you injured? Can I take a look?" He turned and left. "Hey, aren't you here to visit me? Why are you leaving?" Father Chu stood up and patted the dust off his clothes. He smiled and said, "Little fan, good luck." He turned and left. "Hey, what's there to cheer for? Didn't you see that the ice beauty wasn't smiling?" Hualing and Ethereal stood up and laughed. "We're just passing by. You can continue. They all ran away." "Hey, why are you leaning against someone's door? You don't even know how to lie. What's the use of having you?" Only the 2 of them were left in the room. Xiao put his hand to his lips and coughed. "I didn't know they were outside. Don't mind them. They don't have any bad intentions. Maybe they were just curious." Gongsun Shui looked at Xiao Yao, whose cheeks were suspiciously red. Although she didn't know why he had such an expression, she envied him for having such a lively family. It's fine. I'm leaving. She didn't stay this time and directly left. Xiao Yao looked up when he heard her words. She was already gone. He patted his head in annoyance and laid on the bed like a corpse. Why was he always so stupid in front of the ice beauty? He wasn't like this usually. Xiao Yao scratched his head and weakly closed his eyes. Gongsun Shui arrived at the courtyard arranged for today. She saw Qiu Feng talking to the waiter. After a while, Qiu Feng turned and saw her. She immediately went forward. What's the matter? Qiu Feng smiled. The waiter said that Madame Xiao asked him to come over and ask what you like to eat so that he can prepare some food for you. I have to say that the Xiao family is really meticulous. But whether it was now or when they were in the Xiao family, they treated the sect masters so well. Gongsun Shui nodded and then told her about bringing the Xiao family into the city tomorrow. Qiu Feng was silent for a while. Gongsun Shui glanced at her. Even you think that I shouldn't get too close to them? Qiu Feng hurriedly shook her head. No, this subordinate thinks that we are really fated to meet them. She wasn't an old antique like the high priest, always giving orders and not letting the sect master do anything. She was also very wary of the Xiao family. Gongsun Shui nodded. Indeed, from the Ri family to Bright Jade City and entering the capital tomorrow. If it wasn't deliberately arranged, it was really fated. Sect master, this subordinate thinks that second master Xiao cares a lot about you. I can see that he really cares about you. Qiu Feng looked at her master's expression and said carefully. She didn't notice Qiu Feng's little movements. Thinking of his performance in the cabin today, thinking of how he pretended to be weak after getting injured, a hint of a smile appeared in her eyes. He's just a rash person. She also didn't understand why she fell for his trick. She followed him to the inn and even served him food. Maybe it was because she owed him something. After all, she lied to him. Qiu Feng looked at her leaving figure and pondered. If Second Master Xiao could marry the Sect Master, it would be pretty good. Second Master Xiao was like a ball of fire, and the Sect Master was like a block of ice. Ice and fire could fuse together. Chapter 1647. Early the next morning, when Gongsun Shui arrived at the hall, she found that the Chu family had already gathered there. Xiao Yao held his injured hand and walked up to her, smiling. I've already told my eldest brother and the others. They're very happy. Chu Qingyin's voice rang out with a light laugh. Miss Gongsun, we are very happy that you brought us into the city. Thank you very much. Gongsun Shui looked at the crowd and nodded slightly. Compared to your life-saving grace, this is nothing. It's just that. Just what? Just say it, Miss Gongsun. Chu Qingyin gestured for her to sit down. I heard from second young master Xiao that you're looking for someone. Do you have any news? I'm quite well informed in the city. If you need, I can ask someone to help you look for him. That way, you won't have to waste time searching for a needle in a haystack. Gongsun Shui's suggestion was a timely help. As outsiders, there were restrictions on what they could do in the capital city of another country. They couldn't do whatever they wanted. That way, they would get half the results with twice the effort. But Gongsun Shui was the leader of a clan, and the capital city was her territory. If she wanted to find someone, it would be a piece of cake. She could get twice the results with half the effort with twice the result with half the effort. Shui Ling couldn't help feeling excited as she looked towards her master. Xiao Su received his subordinate's request and nodded at Gongsun Shui. Then I'll have to trouble you, Miss Gongsun. You're welcome. It's what I should do, Gongsun Shui replied. The Xiao family, together with Gongsun Shui's group, were a formidable group that attracted a lot of attention on the road. And because of Gongsun Shui's promise, the Xiao family was in high spirits along the way. Gongsun Shui looked at Xiao Yao, who was looking at her eagerly, wanting to change his bandage. She couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Because they had left in a hurry, they didn't prepare a carriage. But this time, they couldn't ride a horse for fear of being recognized. Qiu Feng, who had gone to buy a carriage, came back last night and said that the Xiao family had already prepared a carriage for her. So she didn't think much of it and put it to the back of her mind. It wasn't until this morning when she went out and got on the carriage that she noticed Xiao following behind her. Without waiting for her to speak, Hualing helped Xiao into the carriage and turned her head to say to her, "My master said that the second master still needs to change his bandages, but he can't spare anyone to help. Miss Gong's son, please take care of him." After saying this, Hualing slipped away, leaving her and Xiao staring at each other. Although men and women should be kept away from each other, as the sect master, Gong's son Shui had to deal with her subordinates and subordinates. Most of them were men, so she didn't think much about it. Since he was injured because of her, she should take care of him. Thus, at this moment, she forgot that Xiao Feng was still sitting beside her. She didn't ask for her help and directly helped him remove the gauze. Xiao Feng, who was holding the medicine, thought that the sect master would ask her for help. Seeing this, she secretly put down the medicine bottle and sat far away. She pretended that she didn't know what she was doing and gave the two of them enough space. Because he had lost too much blood yesterday, Xiao's spirit wasn't very good. So when Gong's son Shui helped him change his bandages, he didn't make a fuss and just quietly watched her. Perhaps it was because he was used to making a fuss, but it was a little strange that he was suddenly so quiet. When Gong's son Shui was applying medicine for him, she raised her head. Seeing his tired face, she thought for a moment and said, "The capital city isn't very far from Bright Jade City. We'll arrive in about a day. You can sleep first. I'll wake you up when we arrive." Xiao shook his head when he heard this. "No need. I still have time to sleep tonight." Gong's son Shui let him do as he pleased and didn't try to persuade him any further. She lowered her head and wrapped the gauze around his neck again. Xiao reluctantly retracted his hand. He was a little regretful that he was only injured in one place. As he watched her pack up the medicine box, the sunlight shone through the gaps in the curtains and landed on her body. Her fair and flawless face, her entire body exuded an aura of elegance. She was bathed in sunlight and gave people a very comfortable feeling. Her beautiful face was so young. Only then did he realize that she was only in her teens and already shouldered such a heavy responsibility. In the Sichuan, she was the same age as her and enjoyed a peaceful life. When she had nothing to do, she would play the zither, paint, recite poetry, and write couplets. She was far away from the chaos of war and conspiracy. This comparison made his heart soften. "I heard that the Yu clan isn't very peaceful. Is it hard for you?" Gong's son Shui's hand paused. All these years, everyone only cared about whether she was in a stable position and whether she could fly high. No one had ever asked her if she was tired of flying. She lowered her eyebrows and didn't raise her head, hiding the ripple in her eyes. "I'm used to it. It's been so many years." However, this casual sentence of hers made Xiao fall silent. For a person to be able to say these words so calmly without any complaint, it could be seen how difficult it had been for her all these years. The word used to it did not represent acceptance, but numbness. Just like many years ago, in order to hide it from the people in the palace, he drank himself to death in the restaurant again and again. No one took it back. Every time he woke up, his body would be cold. Everything in front of him was still the same as before he was drunk. He suddenly felt lonely and sad. Sometimes, as he drank, he thought that his life would end like this. That endless darkness and loneliness were the most hopeless. Even if everything was better now, the sorrow left behind was deeply engraved in his bones and difficult to erase. "I understand." Emotions surged in his eyes. He looked out the window and said lightly. Hearing this, Gong's son Shui raised her head to look at him. She only had time to catch the desolation that flashed through the corner of his eyes. Feeling his low mood, she didn't know how to comfort him for a moment. "It's nothing. It's all in the past. You will be well in the future, happy and worry-free. You don't have to bear the responsibility." Sadness came and went quickly. When Xiao turned his head back, there was a careless smile on his face. She thought that he was immersed in sadness. She didn't expect him to smile so brightly in the blink of an eye. Happy and worry-free? Don't have to bear the responsibility? She mocked herself in her heart. That would depend on whether she could live until then. The horses were all good horses. The journey was smooth and fast. Thus, they arrived at the city gates before the sun set. Xiao got out of the carriage and handed a token to the guards. They immediately removed the fence and let them in. Xiao looked at the token in Xiao hand and smiled. "Lend it to me." Xiao immediately put it away and said righteously, "No, this represents the identity of the sect master. You can't just borrow it." Hearing this, Xiao looked at Gongsun Shui with a wronged expression. "You know that I don't know how to do things. What if something happens in your territory? Send someone to find me. What if it's too late?" Gongsun Shui choked and turned to Xiao. "Give it to him." Xiao eyes widened in shock. This token was... Xiao raised his eyebrows at Xiao. "Hurry up and give it to me." Xiao swallowed the words in her mouth and handed it over reluctantly. "Sect Master, have you realized that you have begun to indulge him?" Chapter 1648. When they entered the city, there were already people waiting there. As usual, Xiao went down to greet them, and the group continued to move forward. About half an hour later, the carriages stopped at a temporary imperial residence. Everyone alighted from the carriages. Gongsun Shui had mentioned to them that they would stay in her temporary imperial residence after entering the capital. Thinking that it would be inconvenient to find a house in the city, and that there were 2 pregnant women and a good-for-nothing younger brother to worry about, Xiao agreed. "This palace is so beautiful. Does anyone usually stay here?" After entering the gates, Chung Yinluo felt that she could barely take in everything. Although North Korea was smaller than Sichuan, they were used to luxury. No matter what, it was very luxurious. For example, this temporary imperial residence was golden everywhere, and even the ground was paved with rare agate stones. The extravagance was simply breathtaking. Xiao replied with a smile. "Our sect master doesn't like to stay in the imperial palace, so she usually handles official matters here." "Oh right, something happened in the imperial palace recently, so the sect master will be staying in the temporary imperial residence with everyone this time." Xiao was looking around the Ice Beauty's usual residence, wanting to take this opportunity to learn more about her. His sharp ears caught Xiao words, and he immediately asked the person beside him, "You're not going back to the imperial palace?" Gongsun Shui nodded without thinking much. The last time the token was stolen, it was obvious that many people had been planted in the palace. She had to take this opportunity to remove all the spies, so she wouldn't be returning for the time being since the imperial palace was in turmoil. When Xiao heard her words, he couldn't stop smiling. Ever since she entered the capital, her mind was filled with thoughts. When she saw his expression from the corner of her eye, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. What is wrong with this guy? He always gave her the feeling that he was heartless. As soon as Gongsun Shui entered the main hall, someone rushed over to report the matter. She nodded apologetically to everyone and left after asking Xiao to entertain everyone. Xiao reluctantly watched the white figure leave, wondering when he would be able to see her again. The Emperor Emeritus raised his hand and patted his head. "Have some backbone. Why do you look like a woman who has fallen from grace? Show the Xiao family's imposing manner." Xiao rubbed his head and complained in pain. "We're not fighting a war. What's the use of imposing manner?" Hearing this, the Emperor Emeritus hit him again. "Disappointing brat. Great-grandfather, don't beat Heir Su anymore." At this moment, Kong spoke up to save the situation. Xiao was touched. He had not doted on this child for nothing. Heir Su is already stupid enough. If he continues to fight, he'll be even more stupid. Little Kong added. Everyone burst into laughter, and the fatigue of the journey was swept away. The retired emperor stroked his beard. Kong is right. We have to take care of your retarded Heir Su. Xiao chuckled. After dinner, everyone went to their own rooms to rest. After Gong Su and Xue left, she didn't show up until night fell. Xiao anxiously looked around, but he still didn't see her. He lay on his bed and sighed. Could it be that he had really become the abandoned woman that his imperial grandfather spoke of? He, the carefree king, had everything he wanted, yet he was reduced to such a state. Sigh, the road to subduing the Ice Beauty is a long one. At night, a figure appeared in Xiao Yao's room. If it was any other day, Xiao Yao would definitely be able to sense that someone had entered. However, he had lost too much blood last night. Today, he had forced himself to stay awake and chat with the ice beauty all the way. At this moment, he no longer had any strength and fell into a deep sleep. The person who had come was holding medicine and gauze. She sat down and lifted his hand to take a look. As expected, he hadn't changed his dressing. She shook her head, removed the gauze, and changed his dressing. There were no candles in the room, but the night in North Korea was very bright. The moonlight shone in through the window, enough for one to see the other person's face clearly. After changing his dressing, she didn't leave immediately. Instead, she leaned against the bedpost and narrowed her eyes. She hadn't slept well for several days. She had left the capital for 2 or 3 days, and the work on her desk had piled up like a mountain. Once she returned, she buried herself in work and didn't have a sense of time. When she looked up, she realized that it was already midnight. If it was any other day, she would drink a cup of strong tea to wake herself up and continue. However, for some reason, she stood up and couldn't help but come to him. At this moment, looking at his handsome face, she felt a rare sense of peace in her heart. Because he was sleeping with his eyes closed, she realized that his eyelashes were so long that they were comparable to a girl's eyelashes. It was also because he was sleeping peacefully that she realized that his sleeping appearance was somewhat childish, pure, and harmless. It was completely different from his usual playful or angry appearance. She knew that she didn't have much time and should use it to deal with state affairs. However, today he had asked her, "Will it be hard for you?" This sentence moved her and also made her want to escape from this suffocating official business for the first time to take a breath. Not all efforts would yield results. However, if you didn't do it, you definitely wouldn't gain anything. Therefore, day after day, year after year, she worked hard to do things that she didn't like to do. She was right. She wasn't happy. She had power in her hands, but she didn't have freedom. She was afraid that no one would believe her if she told others. She didn't know why she thought of him when she wanted to catch her breath, and then came to find him. Perhaps it was because by his side, she could feel that she was alive, breathing, and had warmth. The peaceful environment and familiar aura made her relax. Her tight temples and sore eyes made her close her eyes involuntarily. Sleepiness attacked her. She told herself that she would be fine after resting for a while. She used this place to lean on him. The moonlight shone on the 2 young figures, one lying down and one sitting. The shadows on the ground were leaning against each other. After an unknown period of time, Gong Sunshue opened her eyes. Her head was much lighter. Seeing that the person on the bed was still sleeping, her eyes curved. She raised her hand and tucked him in. Then, she got up and left without any reluctance. She didn't have any more time to waste. She gently pushed open the door and closed it again. Xiao Feng stood outside the door. She followed Gong Sunshue here. After Gong Sunshue went in, she had been waiting outside to prevent anyone from disturbing her. Seeing that the sect master came out after only an hour, Xiao Feng's eyes were filled with surprise. She couldn't help but look at her. Gong Sunshue noticed her restless gaze and knocked her head. She laughed and said, "What are you thinking about? Let's go. There's still many things to take care of." Xiao Feng covered her head and stuck out her tongue. She thought that the sect master would only come out at dawn. The sect master had kept herself clean for so many years. Many people wanted to shove male pets to her, but she rejected them all. This was the first time she saw the sect master care so much about a man. Xiao Yao was good-looking, had good martial arts, was knowledgeable, and knew how to make the sect master happy. It would be good if he was taken in by the sect master. She started to think about how the sect master and Xiao Yao's little sect master would look like. He would definitely be very cute. With that thought, Xiao Feng happily followed the sect master in front of her. Chapter 1649. Gong Sunshue was very efficient. The next day, she brought people over to help with the search. "I am Wei Yu, the magistrate of the capital city. If you need anything, I will do my best to cooperate." Wei Yu looked young and talented. He was upright and sincere. Soon, he won the trust of everyone. But Chu Qingyin thought that the most important reason was that he was good-looking. People were always very tolerant of good-looking people. Lord Wei, these are my distinguished guests. Please don't neglect them. Gong Sun Shui only showed the dignity of a superior in front of officials. Wei Yu agreed in fear and trepidation. These people were valued by the sect master and were brought here to meet them personally. It was obvious how important these people were. I will do my best. Very good. Gong Sun Shui nodded. Then she turned to Xiao Su and said, if you have any information, you can tell Lord Wei. He will help you search. If you need manpower, he will cooperate. Xiao Su nodded. Thank you, Sect Master Gong Sun Shui. After that, Xiao Su asked Water Spirit to talk to Wei Yu. The two walked to the side. After settling the important matters, Gong Sun Shui felt that it was time for her to leave. Thinking of the documents on the table, she couldn't help but want to leave. However, she suddenly found that Xiao Yao, who was usually noisy, seemed to be quiet today. She couldn't help but look for him in the crowd. It would have been better if she didn't look. Once she looked, she met his inexplicably sad eyes. Seeing her look, he turned to look at Wei Yu. His eyes were wide open, and he was almost glaring at her. Did this guy know Wei Yu? As for Wei Yu, who was talking to Shui Ling, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. From the moment he entered, he had felt that the handsome young man with the injured arm was constantly glaring at him. Wei Yu didn't know when he had provoked this person, but in short, he felt extremely wronged. At this time, Qiu Feng came in and whispered a few words in Gong Sun Shui's ear. Gong Sun Shui turned around and said a few words to Xiao Su, Chu Qingyin, and the others before leaving. She had just taken a few steps when she heard footsteps behind her. She walked and stopped. She couldn't help but turn around. Why are you following me? Xiao Yao didn't feel embarrassed at being caught red-handed at all. He complained, someone said that he would change my dressing, but now he's ready to run away. I have to come here to catch him. Besides, if you can go this way, why can't I? Gong Sun Shui was accompanied by a servant who had never seen Xiao Yao before. She felt that this person's tone was arrogant, daring to speak to the sect leader in such a manner. She immediately stood out and angrily rebuked. Where did you come from, brat? How dare you disrespect the sect leader? Xiao Yao couldn't be bothered with her. He stared at Gong Sun Shui without blinking. If eyes could speak, they would definitely say, this baby is wronged. I need the ice beauty to coax him. Gong Sun Shui didn't expect him to do this, but she didn't feel angry. Instead, she felt a little unhappy when she saw the servant scolding him. She raised her hand and waved the servant away. Leave. The servant was extremely surprised. Where did this brat come from? How could the sect leader tolerate this brat's disrespect? Qiu Feng shook her head at this servant. He didn't have any eyesight at all. She didn't even know how he managed to become the sect leader's servant. Gong Sun Shui said to him, I don't have time now. I'll change your dressing later. Although this answer was a little unsatisfactory, at least she didn't deny it. Xiao Yao reluctantly agreed to it. After saying that, Gong Sun Shui frowned when she saw that he wasn't going to leave in such thin clothes. What else do you want? Xiao Yao touched his nose and coughed lightly. His eyes drifted as he asked, That Wei Yu? What's your relationship with her? Other than a subordinate relationship, what else could there be? Gong Sun Shui was a little confused. Hearing her honest and straightforward tone, Xiao Yao was instantly delighted. He knew that she was a woman of her words and didn't care to lie. If she said that there was no relationship, then there was no relationship. That's good. He nodded. What do you mean that's good? What's wrong with you today? You're talking nonsense. Although she had urgent matters to deal with, seeing him like this, Gong Sun Shui couldn't help but stay a little longer. She wondered if she should find an imperial physician to take a look at him. Could it be that his wound was infected and he had a fever? Xiao Yao's gaze hardened as he looked at her seriously. His tone was a little domineering. In the future, you're not allowed to get too close to other men, even if they're your subjects. Who knows what kind of tricks they have up their sleeves? Hearing him judge her subjects like this, Gong Sun Shui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why was this person like a child? All right, I know what I'm doing. What else do you want? If not, I have to go. Gong Sun Shui didn't think too deeply about it and didn't realize that this person was jealous. Saying these words now was a declaration of sovereignty. Xiao Feng, who wasn't far away, heard Xiao Yao's words and felt that it was a little disgraceful. Their sect master was the leader of a country and could get whatever she wanted. She didn't even need to beckon, and there would be people who would volunteer themselves to sleep with her. And this Xiao Yao, who hadn't even become a concubine in the harem, actually dared to meddle in the sect master's affairs. It was simply too absurd. But what was even more absurd was that the sect master didn't punish him and even agreed to his request. It was over. Was she still asleep today? Why did she feel like everything she saw and heard was a dream? Just as Xiao Feng was doubting her life, Xiao Yao touched his injured hand and blinked at Gong Sun Shui. "Did you come to see me last night?" Gong Sun Shui was stunned. When she went over last night, no one should know. Moreover, he was sleeping so soundly, so it was even more impossible for him to know. He didn't expect her to answer and continued with some regret. "I fell asleep last night. Perhaps I was too tired and didn't notice you coming over. If I didn't find an extra bandage this morning, I wouldn't know either." "How are you so sure it was me? What if your big brother asked someone to change your bandage?" Gong Sun Shui was a little confused when she heard his confident tone. Xiao Yao said with pride and certainty, "It must be you. I studied the way you bandaged me was different. The knots were very small, and both knots were on the right side." Gong Sun Shui was speechless. There was actually such a way to identify, and this person was too bored to study this. "Besides, my big brother said that he would leave this matter to you, so he wouldn't use anyone else's hands," Xiao Yao said as he raised his eyebrows at her, with the same childishness as when he was sleeping soundly last night. Gong Sun Shui felt that she really had a hand to him. However, she couldn't admit it in front of him. There were so many people here. If they knew that she, a sect master, actually snuck into someone's room and secretly bandaged his wound, what kind of prestige would she have if word got out? She kept a straight face. "Are you done?" Xiao Yao was originally very happy, but when he saw her looking at him coldly, he couldn't help but gulp. He looked at her carefully. "I'm done." "No way," the ice beauty was angry. "I'm leaving." Gong Sun Shui turned around and wanted to continue walking, but her heart softened when she saw his careful gaze just now. "If I'm done, I'll come find you during lunchtime." After saying this, she didn't stay any longer and strode away. Chapter 1650. By the time Xiao Yao reacted, she had already walked some distance away. He immediately laughed loudly and replied, "Okay, I'll wait for you." Hearing this, Gong Sun Shui, who had her back to him, wondered why this person was so annoying. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have wasted time dealing with urgent matters. However, it was she who stopped to talk to him. If she was really impatient, she could have just turned around and left. However, seeing him standing upright in his green robe under the sun, she couldn't move her feet. This man whose smile was brighter than the sun was the only warm color in this winter. She wanted to look at him a few more times so that she would have the strength to deal with those troublesome official matters. Seeing Gong Sun Shui and the others walk away, Xiao Yao sneezed. He rubbed his arms. It was so cold. When he woke up this morning, he found that the dressing on his wound had been changed. He was in a daze for a while. Then, when he learned that she was coming today, he didn't have time to put on more clothes and rushed over. He patted his head and walked back. He thought to himself in a self-deprecating manner. He had been with girls since he was young. Even if he hadn't eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. Why was he still acting like a hothead? Oh, the more he lived, the more backward he became. Achoo! No, I have to put on more clothes. It's so cold. I think this Lord Wei is very methodical. He should be able to find Wind Spirit's whereabouts soon. In the hall, Chu Qing Yin poured a cup of tea for Xiao Su and said slowly, "These words are not only for Big Ice Cube, but also for Shui Ling." During this time, Chu Qing Yin could feel that Shui Ling had lost a lot of weight, and she seemed to have lost some of her vitality. Seeing this made Chu Qing Yin's heart ache. Xiao Su glanced at Water Spirit and took a sip of tea. Although Miss Gong Sun didn't say it, this Wei Yu's background is not small. "Oh." Chu Qingyin's interest was piqued as she asked, "Tell me quickly." To be able to sit in such an important position as the capital magistrate at such a young age, either his family is powerful or the king deliberately promoted him. However, he can only sit in this position if he is capable enough to convince the people. The capital magistrate was equivalent to the mayor of the modern capital. It was not only a high position, but also involved many aspects. She loved to hear such things. She grabbed his sleeve and urged, "Continue, continue." Water Spirit and the others were also attracted by her master's words. Xiao touched her hand and continued. Judging from Miss Gongsuan's tone and Wei Yu's attitude just now, it can be seen that Wei Yu is Miss Gongsuan's subordinate, or rather, a trusted subordinate. Furthermore, the power and manpower in Wei Yu's hands should be far beyond his identity as a magistrate. How can you tell? Earlier, she had only paid attention to Wei Yu's beauty and neglected other aspects. She couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Xiao pointed to the person beside him. Hualing, you answer. Hualing didn't have much confidence in his heart, but after his master's reminder, his bold guess had some basis. Thus, he opened his mouth and replied, "When I was discussing with Lord Wei just now, this subordinate discovered something. It is not difficult for him to mobilize the troops in the capital city at will. Moreover, he doesn't need to report to Miss Gongsun and can directly mobilize them. If it wasn't for the fact that his superiors trust him to a certain extent, he wouldn't have this kind of privilege." Water Spirit also added at this time, this subordinate also discovered something. This Lord Wei seems to have a spy in his hand because this subordinate discovered that he is very familiar with spying and other aspects. It can be seen that he is not as simple as he appears on the surface. Not bad. Xiao nodded in praise, very satisfied with the answers of his two subordinates. Chu Qingyan suddenly understood. So when she was admiring the beauty, she missed out on so many things. As expected, a pregnancy made her stupid for 3 years. The baby's in the belly. Mother, we babies won't take this blame. Hualing scratched his head at this time, a little confused. Master, since this Wei Yu has so much power and is quite capable, why was he sent to investigate Feng Ling's matter? Right now, the Sun Clan and Moon Clan are fighting, as well as the chaos in the Moon Clan. Shouldn't he be focusing on that? Isn't this using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? Everyone present also didn't understand Hualing's question. Xiao tapped his fingers lightly on the table and glanced at the people who walked in through the door. The corner of his mouth curled up. I think you will have to ask Second Master about this. Only then did Xiao return to his room and put on some clothes. There was still a smug smile on his face. Who knew that the moment he entered, he would receive pairs of sparkling eyes? He immediately stopped smiling and looked at everyone with a serious expression. What's wrong? Hualing immediately told him what everyone had just said. Then he asked with a face full of curiosity, Second Master, tell me, why do you think Miss Gongsun arranged for such an important official like Lord Wei to follow us everywhere to look for people? Hearing these people praise Wei Yu to the heavens, Xiao was already dissatisfied. When he heard that it was related to the Ice Beauty, he couldn't help but think, could it be that the Ice Beauty wanted to see Wei Yu every day, so she arranged for him to be here? Thinking like this, his good mood from before disappeared with a whoosh. How is this Wei Yu that good? Are you all blind? Compared to this king, what kind of onion is he, angering me to death? Xiao threw a tantrum with his hands on his hips. His heart was very depressed, and he didn't say anything else. He turned around and left, leaving behind a room full of confused spectators. Hualing was at a loss. Why did Second Master come so happily and leave in a huff? Did he say something to offend him? Water Spirit shrugged, expressing that she didn't understand either. Chu Qingyan seemed to understand something. She gave a soft laugh and said to the person beside her, Is your Xiao family's jealousy so strange? Xiao spread his hands. I think only this fool is an exception. Chu Qingyan shook her head with a smile. Why did Gongsun, Shui, send Wei Yu over? The reason was very simple. She placed a lot of importance on them. In other words, they were placed in importance because of Xiao, so she would care about anything related to Xiao. However, she looked out the window, and Xiao's angry figure just happened to flash by. She shook her head with a smile, but the two of them didn't seem to notice. Gong Sun Shui was planning on finding Xiao Yao during lunchtime, but another group of people came to find her. When she finished, another 2 hours had passed. She rubbed her eyes and felt a bit of a headache. After missing the appointment for so long, that fellow should be angry. Thinking of his angry appearance, it was actually quite fun. She couldn't think like this. She didn't have any sympathy at all. She put down the pen and walked to the door, planning on going to his yard. But she never thought that as soon as she walked out, she would see a figure casually leaning against a pillar in the hallway. Only when he saw her did he turn around. Xiao Yao, she never thought that he would be here. I thought you would be busy until nighttime. He stretched out and walked over to her. She could hear the sadness in his voice. She raised her brows and wanted to say something, but he spoke first. You haven't eaten lunch yet, right? I haven't eaten either. What a coincidence. Let's eat together. He naturally took her wrist and walked back into the study. When their skin touched, the warm feeling and gentle strength made Gong Sun Shui lose her ability to speak as she was brought in by him. Chapter 1651. She only regained her senses after entering the study. His palm was slightly warm as he held her slightly cold wrist. She felt that their actions were a little too intimate. She thought about how to quietly pull her hand back without making him feel awkward. Just as she was thinking hard, her wrist was released by him. She also let out a sigh of relief. Xiao Yao's back was facing her. He looked at his hand, then immediately rubbed it against his clothes. He had only boldly held the Ice Beauty's hand, and he was so nervous that he was sweating. Fortunately, she didn't notice. Thus, the two sat opposite each other with their own thoughts. At this time, there were already people setting the dishes. Only then did Gong Sun Shui realize that he had brought so many people over. In a short while, the dishes were all served. She didn't touch her chopsticks. Instead, her eyes were filled with suspicion. These dishes were all made by the West Court's chefs. West Court? East Court? Xiao didn't know which one at all. I asked Xiao Feng. She brought me there. He replied honestly. This made Gong Sun Shui even more confused. Then how did you get them to listen to you? Not only did they cook, they even came to deliver food. She remembered that she had told them a long time ago that there was no need for the kitchen to deliver food without her orders. Xiao Yao chuckled. Of course it depends on one's charisma. As he spoke, he even winked at her. Gong Sun Shui was bewildered. Was this guy trying to seduce her? But that couldn't be right. The imperial chefs were all men. They couldn't have fallen for it. She didn't understand, but she also knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of this guy. Thus, she didn't ask anymore. She would ask Xiao Feng later. Actually, the truth was like this. Today, the West Court's chefs saw Master Xiao Feng bring in an unfamiliar, beautiful man, saying that he was going to prepare lunch for their sect master. There weren't many people who could make Master Xiao Feng treat them so politely. Moreover, this kind of bearing and elegance was not something an ordinary person could compare to. And this was the first time they saw a man by their sect master's side. Unsurprisingly, they thought that he was a pet boy. They thought that this person must be extremely loved by their sect master, which was why she allowed him to go around. Thus, they treated him even more attentively. Perhaps he would become their master in the future. Needless to say, they followed Xiao Yao's orders. They did whatever Xiao Yao told them to do, not to mention sending people to deliver food. Xiao Yao didn't know the truth, and thought that he would be able to do well wherever he went. He was even more pleased with himself. Gong Sun Shui was really hungry. After taking a few bites, she realized that no one else had touched the food on the table except her. She looked up at him and asked, "Why aren't you eating?" Xiao Yao raised his injured hand and sighed. "My hand is weak. You eat first. Don't worry about me. It's better for one person to starve to death than for two people to starve to death." Gong Sun Shui could not help but twitch her eyes when she heard him exaggerate. But in the end, she buried her head and finished her meal as quickly as possible. Xiao Yao saw that although she ate quickly, she ate elegantly. No matter how he looked at her, she looked good. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Soon, Gong Sun Shui was full. "Aren't you going to eat more?" Xiao Yao pushed the dishes in front of her. Gong Sun Shui shook her head and put down her bowl. Then, she took his bowl and put some food into his mouth. Xiao Yao had been planning this all along. He didn't expect her to take the initiative before he even opened his mouth. Thus, he happily opened his mouth to accept the Ice Beauty's food. "It's been hard on you." After taking a bite, Xiao Yao smiled at her sincerely. Gong Sun Shui snorted coldly in her heart. Wasn't this all part of his plan? He said that he didn't eat, then brought the food in front of her. He held his injured hand and sighed at her. Wasn't this all to tease her? Forget it, forget it. Seeing that he was injured, she wouldn't argue with him. However, the servants who were waiting on them saw that their high and mighty sect master was actually lowering himself to feed someone. And he was doing it so naturally. It was simply blinding, okay? Their wise and mighty sect master. Their sect master who was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. How could their sect master be such a gentle sect master in front of them? Who could tell them that all of this was not real? Xiao Yao was still picky as he ate. "This fish is bones. That pork rib is not bad. I want to eat another piece. That soup is a bit greasy. I don't want it next time." Heavens, this person was already lucky enough to be served by sect master in his previous life. How dare he be so picky? Sect master, what are you doing? You don't have to pick on this untactful brat. Sob, sob, sob. What's wrong with this world? Give us back our cold and heartless sect master. Xiao Yao glanced at the servants standing beside him and snorted. Everything that happened in the kitchen and study today would soon spread out. This way, no one would dare to have any ideas about the Ice Beauty in the future. Indeed, this matter would spread far and wide like the wind. But it would be different from what Xiao Yao thought, because he forgot one thing. In the Yu clan, Gong Sun Shui was the one in charge. She was the king, the sky, so she could have many male pets. Even if it was the emperor, as long as she wanted, she could have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, and 3,000 beauties. So the impact of this matter was not that Gong Sun Shui was taken, but that Xiao Yao was taken. No one dared to think about this person who was liked by Gong Sun Shui. So the rumor quickly spread. "Hey, have you heard? Our sect master seems to have taken a fancy to a common man. Hey, have you heard? Our Yu clan is going to have a happy occasion. Our sect master might be taking a concubine. Hey, have you guys heard? Our sect master has taken a fancy to a man. Who knows, we might have a little sect master in the future." That was how the rumor came about. But the 2 main characters who started this rumor knew nothing. At this moment, Xiao Yao was still being picky. "This braised meat is not bad. You can eat more. You're too skinny. That green vegetable is not good. Ask the chef to improve it." Gong Sun Shui felt that this person was so talkative during a meal. He could not stop for even a moment. She changed the spoon and scooped a big mouthful of rice in his mouth. When he swallowed and wanted to speak, she gave him another big mouthful. Thus, her ears were finally free of the ruckus. Although this meal was not over, it still went very quickly. When they finished eating, they realized that it had only taken an hour. Gong Sun Shui asked the servants to clear away the leftovers and bring the medicine over. As she bandaged his wound, she said, "You don't have to specially come over in the future. I'll change the medicine for you." Xiao Yao propped his chin up and looked at her. Hearing this, he said, "It's okay. You're busy. I can cooperate with you. Besides, if I didn't know that you haven't eaten, I wouldn't have come over. I'll take care of the meals in the future." Gong Sun Shui's fingers paused. She looked up at him. "Actually, you don't have to do this." Xiao Yao interrupted her with a smile. "Because I'm worried that you'll forget to eat and sleep. You don't have to worry about me. I know what I'm doing." At this moment in the cold winter, she seemed to see a sky full of peach blossoms in his eyes. Chapter 1652. It had to be said that the people sent by Gong Sun Shui were very efficient. After giving the information to Wei Yu, there was news in less than 2 days. Wei Yu said to the people present, "According to the information provided by Lady Water Spirit, we found a few people who said that they had seen this young master and Elder Su's people appear." Who is Elder Su? Water Spirit was so agitated that she almost shook him, but her remaining reason made her restrain herself. Wei Yu felt that this young lady was very scary, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He immediately explained, "This Elder Su is called Su Yu. He was originally an important minister in our clan, and also the grandfather of our sect master's cousin. Originally? Then now. Chu Qingyan grasped the key words in his words and asked. Wei Yu's mouth twitched, revealing a trace of mockery. This person is now a traitor of our Yu clan. He supported his own granddaughter to become the queen, betrayed the Yu clan, and has troops for himself. Could it be that traitor who previously occupied the other half of the Yu clan's territory? Chu Qingyan was surprised. Wei Yu smiled. I am ashamed to say that I have made a fool of myself. It is him. If they continued talking, they would be suspected of discussing other people's national affairs. Xiao Su said, Then what does Lord Wei need us to do now? Wei Yu hurriedly said, That's right. We traced to Elder Su's side, and the clues were cut off. This time, this lowly official came here to borrow your people. This lowly official discovered that in terms of tracking and investigation, our people are far inferior to yours. Xiao Su raised his hand. No problem. Water Spirit, you are in charge. Water Spirit could not ask for more, and immediately agreed. Wei Yu thanked her and said, As long as we can find clues from Su Yu's people, we should be able to find young Master Feng Ling's whereabouts. Water Spirit's eyes were slightly excited. I hope so. After chatting for a while, Wei Yu bid farewell. When he was about to leave, Wei Yu felt very strange. Although he did not know Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan's identities, he clearly felt that he was shorter in front of them. He had to be respectful when speaking and doing things, and they were even more dignified than the sect master. They had a habit of giving orders, and this was not something that ordinary people could raise. Could it be that they were nobles from some place? Wei Yu did not dare to think about it. So, as soon as Wei Yu left, the meeting hall became lively. Xue Ling nodded in agreement. We are too unfamiliar with this country and this place, so if we want to investigate anything, it will be very troublesome. We also have to worry about running into the intricate forces here. Even if we want to, we won't be able to. Hua Ling rubbed his chin and said, It's all thanks to Miss Gong's son. If we can find Feng Ling this time, she will be our great benefactor. But we only have a bit of information for now. Didn't we just hear about Su Yu's people's characters? If Feng Ling is related to them, I'm afraid he will be in trouble. Water Spirit's heart tightened, and her voice was filled with sadness. Chu Qingyan walked forward and held her hand. She comforted her and said, He managed to survive that disaster all those years ago. This proves that the heavens helped the worthy. Don't worry too much. We will find him as soon as possible. Water Spirit's eyes turned red. She leaned on her shoulder and said with a sobbing voice, Little princess, she understood this feeling all too well. Not knowing what had happened to her loved ones, whether they were alive or dead, it was a feeling of helplessness and grief that was difficult to describe. She patted Xue Ling's back gently. You should also find some time to rest. Don't strain yourself too much. If you find Feng Ling and you collapse, wouldn't Feng Ling be sad? Water Spirit immediately rubbed her eyes when she heard this. She gently nodded and said, This subordinate understands. Hua Ling watched Water Spirit's strong appearance from the side, and his heart sighed with pity. After all these years, he had personally seen her turn from a lively little girl who loved to laugh to a cold and lonely person. Then she turned into a pigeon feather horse lord who only knew how to use a smile to disguise herself. He hoped that they could find Feng Ling this time and let her regain her past self. He looked at his master. His master's gaze was currently on the two people hugging each other. This should be his master's hope. Regarding Feng Ling's matter, the one who blamed himself the most should be his master. Not long after, Wei Yu sent someone over. Water Spirit did not stay any longer and brought her people along. On the way back, Chu Qingyan softly said to the person beside her, Big Ice Cube, is it good news? Feng Ling had not returned for a long time. Something must have happened, and no one dared to think of the worst. However, the closer she got to the truth, the more unsettled her heart became. Not only was she worried for Water Spirit, but she was also worried for this big ice cube who had imprisoned her in regret. Xiao Su reached out to hold her hand. His expression was firm. He will. Chu Qingyan turned back to look at him. Under his bright gaze, she nodded heavily. He will. Feng Ling will definitely return safely. No matter how big the storm is or how heavy the rain is, the sky will clear up after the storm. That's right. I haven't seen second brother the entire day. What is he busy with? Chu Qingyan suddenly thought. Xiao Su's lips curled into a strange smile. He's chasing someone. Gong Sun Shui only received the news of Wei Yu's arrival and departure a short while later. At this time, she was having dinner with Xiao Yao. Oh, to be precise, she was feeding Xiao Yao dinner. Actually, she could not understand. This person was so proficient in using his left and right hands to wield a sword. But when it came to using his left hand to eat, he either couldn't pick up the food or spilled the soup. He was worse than a 3-year-old. Xiao Yao was currently enjoying the bliss of being served by the Ice Beauty. Even if he knew what she was thinking, he would still nod happily. Yes, 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 I'm worse than a 3-year-old now. I'm a baby who needs someone to take care of me. There's news of young Master Feng Ling. Are you very happy? Gong Sun Shui saw that he kept looking at her happily and thought that it was because of this. How could Xiao Yao admit that he was happy because she was in front of him? Hence, he immediately nodded seriously. Yes, we came here to look for him. Gong Sun Shui nodded. Wei Yu is a smart and flexible person. He has always been reliable. I'm very relieved to leave this matter to him. He has never disappointed me. When Xiao Yao heard this name, especially when he heard the Ice Beauty praise him, he felt a little jealous. He crossed his arms and proudly said, "This bowl of rice is cold. I don't want to eat it." Gong Sun Shui raised her eyebrows. Wasn't it still warm? However, she still got someone to change the bowl. Just as he finished changing, he said again, "The food is cold too. Change it." Gong Sun Shui did not understand why he was so busy today. She waved her hand and asked the kitchen to send a new one. Xiao Yao looked at her reaction. The Ice Beauty was so obedient to him. He was immediately satisfied. As for Wei Yu and Wei Lei, go to the side. Chapter 1653. Although Xiao Yao was getting further and further away from being shameless when it came to chasing his wife, he would still occasionally grab his face and wear it. However, who was living a leisurely life, was also a little troubled. He was an idle person in North Korea. To put it simply, he was an unemployed vagrant. Every time he saw that the Ice Beauty had to deal with a basket of state affairs after taking care of him, he felt sorry for her. However, he could only take care of her body, pester her to eat during meal times, and prepare some soup for her. He once thought that he'd become a good wife and mother. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he was frightened by himself. In any case, he was the lord of the country, second only to one person and above millions. How could he reverse his position? However, every time he saw her being at her wit's end, he silently threw away his face. Today, he prepared a bowl of snow pear soup for her and placed it by her hand for nearly the time it took to brew a cup of tea. However, she didn't react at all. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. This person forgot the time when she was busy. However, he couldn't blame Gong Sun Shui. It was indeed because she had encountered a thorny problem that her subordinates couldn't do anything about. Moreover, she was also troubled by the memorial. At this time, a dissatisfied voice sounded in her ear. What's there to think about? First, raise the dam and stall for time so that the people downstream can evacuate first. Then, send people to hurry up and dig a canal. I remember that there's a river nearby. When the time comes, just divert the water there. All right, drink the soup quickly. It's already cold. You don't know how difficult it is for me to get people to find a pair in winter. Xiao Yao complained a lot, but when he looked up, he met the Ice Beauty's sparkling eyes. He immediately shut up. No way, what's wrong with the Ice Beauty? Why is she looking at me so strangely? It's as if she wants to eat me. Gong Sun Shui saw his expression and knew what her expression was, but she couldn't care less. She spoke quickly. Xiao Yao, how do you know this? I know this. Are you talking about snow pear stew? Xiao Yao touched his head. I asked about ethereal. I told him that you've been coughing recently, so he asked me to stew some pears. He said it's good for the lungs. That's not what I'm asking you. I mean, how do you know how to control floods? She had discussed this problem with the officials for the entire morning, but no one had a solution. They had thought that they could only evacuate the people and reduce the casualties. They had not thought of diverting the water to release the flood. It was simply too surprising. Xiao replied without thinking. Isn't this the normal way to deal with it? During the few years he was in Xixian, he had been detained by his imperial brother in the imperial palace under various pretexts to deal with these matters. Floods and droughts were simply a headache. But now, he was able to deal with them with ease. He could easily deal with them. He thought this was common sense, but he forgot that only someone like him, who was at the center of power, was qualified to deal with this kind of thing. It was also because he stood at the top that he could see the big picture and think of a solution. Gong Sunshua knew that he was not lying, but his habitual tone shocked her. She pretended to be calm and nodded. She did not have time to talk to him. She sat down and wrote down the method that Xiao had just mentioned. Then, she called Xiaofeng in and asked her to deliver the letter. After everything was done, Gong Sunshua was about to talk to Xiao when a bowl of golden soup appeared in front of her. A pair of angry eyes appeared and complained, "It's cold, it's cold." At this moment, Gong Sunshua felt that how could there be such a cute person like him? She suddenly had the urge to touch his head. However, there was a kind of person who acted faster than thought. Just like now, Gong Sunshua saw Xiao suddenly widen his eyes and look at her in surprise. Only then did she realize that her hand was already on his head. She immediately withdrew her hand, coughed softly, and calmly picked up the bowl. Xiao did not feel the joy of being touched by his sweetheart at all. But I'm not a pet. Why does it feel like the ice beauty is touching a dog? I'm so angry. Looking at his uncertain expression, Gong Sunshua did not know what he was thinking. Her gaze fell on the other booklets on the table. She calmed herself down and said, "Let me ask you something." Xiao was still immersed in the disappointment of being treated as a pet by his sweetheart. He said weakly, "What is it?" Gong Sunshua looked at him and said slowly, "Last month, the bridge to the river collapsed, causing the people on both sides of the river to be unable to cross. This is a necessary route for trade, so we have to build another bridge. Otherwise, it will affect the lives of the people. However, the national treasury has been empty recently. In addition, there have been natural disasters and man-made disasters in the past few years, and the people are poor. I want to reduce the taxes, but this way, the desire to build a bridge will be even greater. What do you think I should do?" Xiao pondered for a moment, then gave his answer. "This bridge must be built, but it doesn't require the national treasury to pay for it. Spread the word that you are very worried about this matter, and secretly ask a few of your trusted officials to donate a portion of their salaries. Once this word gets out, everyone will follow suit. Then, the rich and powerful cargo owners will definitely not miss this opportunity to show their faces in order to curry favor with you. After all, the wool comes from the sheep's back. Building a bridge will only bring them benefits and no harm, and it will also increase their reputation. Isn't it just a bit of money? Why not do it? Moreover, as long as they all fork out a sum of money, you can write a few calligraphy pieces and praise them. You will definitely receive a lot of money." When Gong Sunshua heard his answer, it was as if she had opened a door to another world. She had never thought of using this method to squeeze money out of the imperial court, but this was not the best solution at all. However, Xiao was not done speaking. "Also, didn't you say that the people are poor? Just directly let the officials in charge recruit the people to participate in the construction of the bridge and pay them a certain amount of remuneration. It just so happens that it is winter now, and they don't have any crops, so they are idle at home. The government will provide 3 meals, and the people will not suffer from hunger and cold. Let them take this opportunity to earn some money to supplement their family, improve their lives, and get through this cold winter, killing 2 birds with 1 stone." After saying so much, Xiao was a little thirsty. Someone handed him a bowl, and he drank it without thinking. After drinking it, he realized that this was the pear soup prepared for the ice beauty. "Why did you give it to me? This is brewed for you." Xiao was a little regretful that he did not see clearly before taking it. But why was the ice beauty's eyes shining when she looked at him? Did something happen? It doesn't matter. I will let people brew it later. Gong Sun Shue waved her hand indifferently. She was more concerned about the background of the person in front of her. The country and the people's livelihood were easy to deal with. It was as if the problem in front of her was not a problem in front of him. She immediately said, I will test you again. Xiao Yao's face was sad. Again? But I want to find the kitchen to brew another bowl. Chapter 1654. 2 hours had passed. 4 hours had passed. Gong Sun Shue asked Xiao Yao about the pile of documents on the table. Unsurprisingly, Xiao Yao gave her the most appropriate and reasonable solutions. Regardless of whether it was dismissal from office, natural disasters, people's livelihood, or trade, he could give you a clear and logical explanation. Gong Sun Shue felt that the matter that had been giving her a headache for several days was solved in just a few words. It was simply too shocking. This person was simply a genius at governing a country. Even if she were in his position, she wouldn't be able to do better than him. Who exactly was he? Why did he have such ability to govern the world? Perhaps it was because Gong Sun Shue's gaze was completely different from usual. Xiao Yao was a little nervous. Did he say something wrong? He looked at the piles of documents and remembered that this was something that had been troubling her for several days. Was it because she, as the sect master, couldn't solve it, and he solved it so easily? Did it hurt her self-esteem? What should he do? This was a serious problem. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have said so much. Yes, it was nonsense. Actually, I'm very stupid and don't know anything. My grandfather even said that I'm not smart at all. He's right. Even little Kong is smarter than me. Xiao Yao wanted to cry, but had no tears. He said a lot of things, but sadly found that the Ice Beauty's gaze on him was getting brighter and brighter. So scary. He wanted to say something to save her, but he heard someone clapping. He looked in the direction of the sound. Wasn't this the high priest? Why was he here? Wait, when did he come in? Sure enough, when he was with the Ice Beauty, he automatically blocked the outside world. This was a bad habit and had to be changed. Lan Si was looking for Gong Sun Shue, but he didn't expect that Gong Sun Shue would test Xiao Yao on national affairs. He originally felt that the sect master's actions were a little inappropriate and wanted to stop her, but after hearing Xiao Yao's answer, he was even more shocked than Gong Sun Shue. He couldn't help but swallow his words. Lan Si put away his shocked expression and walked in front of Xiao Yao, sizing him up. The last time they had met in a hurry at the Xiao mansion, he hadn't had the chance to take a good look at this brat's appearance. Now that he saw him, he looked quite decent and was a good match for his sect master. After sizing him up, Lan Si asked, Second young master Xiao, how do you know so much? This person must be here to check the household register. He was just sure of asking about his identity. Xiao Yao doesn't like this Lan Si. Anyone who destroys his and the Ice Beauty's world is unforgivable. However, this person seemed to be the Ice Beauty's elder. Forget it, I'll give him some face. I was influenced by what I saw and heard. He gave a vague answer. This was obviously a lie, but Gong Sun Shue and Lan Si heard the words being influenced by what you see and hear. Then, second young master Xiao can be considered a self-taught talent. Young and promising, very good. Lan Si nodded and praised. Xiao Yao's hair immediately stood on end. Didn't this person dislike him before? Why did he suddenly praise him? There was something fishy going on. Of the 36 stratagems, escape was the best strategy. He made a prompt decision and said to the Ice Beauty, I'll get someone to make you a bowl of snow pear soup. He then turned to Lan Si and said, Excuse me. Then, without waiting for the two to react, he disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Gong Sun Shue also didn't expect the high priest to come. She had just witnessed the process of him scaring Xiao Yao away. At this time, she said lightly, What brings the high priest here today? Lan Si coughed lightly. This old one heard that the sect master has taken in a male pet. The outside world is abuzz with the news, so this old one came to take a look. Lan Si felt that his words were a little inappropriate. As the high priest, he had no right to ask. However, the sect master's relatives were all gone, and he was the only elder left who cared about her. He should help her check. Moreover, this person was actually from the Xiao family. When he heard the news, he was very opposed. The Xiao family had a relationship with the Japanese, so he immediately put down his work and rushed over. However, after meeting him today, his opinion had changed a little. However, when Gongsun Shui heard Lan Si's straightforward words, she didn't react for a moment. Her ears turned red, but fortunately, she lowered her head slightly to look at the document in her hand, and her hair fell down, so it wasn't noticed. Male pet? That person probably didn't know. If he knew, with his arrogant personality, he would have thrown a tantrum long ago. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile. She asked in a normal tone, "It's just a rumor. When did the high priest believe in those rumors?" Lan Si smiled. "It can't be helped. The sect master has long reached the age of marriage, but she has been alone for so many years. Naturally, this old one has to be concerned." She spread her hands. "But this time, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint the high priest." Lan Si waved his hand. "That's not the case." Gongsun Shui was puzzled. "Oh, what does the high priest think?" Lan Si stroked his beard and said, "Sect master, this old one saw the performance of the Xiao family's second young master clearly. He is smart, flexible, and not constrained by the secular world. He is a rare talent. His words are not worse than the children of the aristocratic families. His appearance is outstanding, and his martial arts are also outstanding. I'm afraid that even the big families of the Yu family can't find such a good seedling. This old one thinks that the sect master should consider." Consider? Consider what? Invite him to the court? No. Consider letting him into the harem and help you in the future. I see that he also cares a lot about the sect master. He will probably be happy to see it happen." Lan Si's words were like thunder, exploding in her ears. She was caught off guard, and it set off waves that reverberated in her heart for a long time. She was moved, but what followed after was heartache. Lan Si continued, "Sect master, you know that this old one is good at reading faces. This old one has already observed the Xiao family's second young master. He will be magnanimous and able to take on great responsibilities. He is a person with deep feelings and will definitely not let you down. He will also become your right-hand man." After saying that, Lan Si found that her face was a little pale. He couldn't help but ask with concern, "Sect master, are you okay?" Gongsun Shui came back to her senses and shook her head. She raised her eyes, and her gaze was a little unfocused. "High priest, you forgot that I don't have much time left." Hearing this, Lan Si was a little annoyed. "Girl, what nonsense are you saying? You are still young, and there is still plenty of time. There will always be a way to cure this illness. This old one has sent many people to find a doctor. Don't worry." Gongsun Shui knew that if she continued speaking, she would only make the high priest angry. She couldn't help but smile. Seeing that her face was not too good, Lan Si was not in the mood to continue speaking. He raised his hand and patted her shoulder. "Child, consider this old one's suggestion. Don't be so harsh on yourself." Looking at the high priest's departing figure, Gongsun Shui smiled bitterly. She already had one foot in the grave. How could she drag others down with her? Chapter 1655. 3 days had passed, and everything seemed to be calm and peaceful. The war between the Sun Clan and the Moon Clan had yet to break out, and the internal strife within the Moon Clan seemed to have subsided. However, the calmer things seemed on the surface, the more turbulent they were on the inside. It was just that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Wind Spirit's whereabouts were still under investigation, and there would occasionally be good news. Ever since Sima Jun and Ji Linyang had a heart-to-heart talk, the two of them were as close as one person. Now, the most important thing for them was to wait for the birth of their child, so they didn't have much time to meddle in Xiao Su's affairs. Cheng Yin Luo and Ethereal were as sweet as ever, talking about medicine and love. Father Chu and Mother Chu were lovey-dovey while fooling around with the retired emperor. This made the usually quiet temporary imperial residence a little livelier. And ever since Xiao Su said that day, he began to bring his son by his side and teach him personally. Chu Qingyin would also watch from his side. On the other hand, Xiao Yao stayed by Gongsun Shui's side all day long. His injuries were gradually recovering, and he was fed until he was fair and plump. However, if there was any change compared to before, it would be that Gongsun Shui would often tell Xiao Yao some political affairs and listen to his answers. Xiao Yao didn't quite understand her actions because there were too many secrets involved. Some of them were known to know more than 3 people, but she handed them over to him without any worry. He didn't know if it was because she trusted him too much or because she was confident that he wouldn't leak them out. He shouldn't have taken over, but seeing how busy she was, he quietly took over and helped her deal with it, thinking that it would be good to share some of her burden. One afternoon, Gongsun Shui put down the official documents in her hand and pinched her sore brows. Her gaze unconsciously fell on the person who was seriously working by the window. Everything seemed to be peaceful and peaceful, without any worries. It made people think that it was quite good to live like this. But peace would always be broken. What would come would come. On this day, Wei Yu hurried into the temporary imperial residence and found Xiao Su and the others. This official has found young Master Wind Spirit's whereabouts. These words attracted everyone's attention. Tell me, where is he now? Is he safe? Is he injured? Water Spirit immediately rushed forward and grabbed Wei Yu's clothes. She was so excited that she spoke incoherently. Water Spirit calmed down. Although Huo Ling was excited, he did not forget his status. He quickly pulled on Water Spirit. Master and the others are still here. Xiao Su straightened up and said with a solemn expression, Lord Wei, please speak frankly. Wei Yu was almost torn apart by Water Spirit's tug. He wondered how this delicate girl could be so strong. After he rescued his wrinkled clothes, he heard Xiao Su's words and hurriedly cupped his hands. This official found out that young Master Feng Ling appeared in Su Yu's residence. Although Su Yu betrayed the sect master and took everyone away from the capital, there is always a way out. This official found a servant of the Su family. He recognized Feng Ling's portrait and said that Su Yu took him away. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Wind Spirit's whereabouts had been found. This was the best news so far. However, why would Wind Spirit be related to Su Yu? This puzzled everyone. Water Spirit became anxious again. Did the servant say how he was doing? Was he willing to stay, or was he forced to? Wei Yu shook his head awkwardly. I'm very sorry. The information that the servant could provide is limited. This official does not know how young Master Feng Ling is doing. Furthermore, this official did not find out the relationship between young Master Feng Ling and Su Yu. Once this official received the news, this official came to report to everyone. This official will shift the direction of the investigation to Luo City. Luo City? Where is that? Chu Qingyan was puzzled. Luo City is the city where Su Yu is located. However, because Su Yu controls a large territory in the southeast and Luo City is the central city, it will be difficult for this official to investigate. If the person was on their side, it would be easy for him to investigate. However, he did not expect Su Yu to be involved. He really did not know why Su Yu liked to cause trouble so much. It was obvious that these people in front of him were not to be trifled with. Xiao Su asked for advice. Lord Wei, please tell us about Su Yu and how many cities and power he has in his hands so that we can prepare. Wei Yu was in a difficult position. If it was about Su Yu as a person, it would be fine. However, it involved the power in Su Yu's hands and the cities he currently occupied. This was a military secret. The citizens outside were still being kept in the dark. He could not easily reveal it. What if it caused panic among the citizens? Because Su Yu knew that the reason for the rebellion was not legitimate, he did not raise the flag with great fanfare. He had already planted people in those cities before, so there was no need to break into the cities and occupy them. Therefore, in the eyes of those with discerning eyes, it looked like the situation was calm on the surface, but the ruler inside had changed. Su Yu's plan was to quietly kill Gong Sunshui and then replace her with Gong Sunfei. That was why he had bribed people from Flowing Cloud Pavilion to assassinate Gong Sunshui several times. However, in the end, Xiao Yao and the others had foiled his plans and did not succeed. One side deliberately concealed it, while the other side did not publicize it. Thus, Only the court officials knew about the internal strife. There were rumors among the citizens, but not many people believed them. Lord Wei, there is no need to hide anything. Just tell me what you want to know. At this time, a voice came from outside the door. Everyone looked over and saw Gong Sunshua walk in with Xiao Yao beside her. When Wei Yu saw that his superior had spoken, he no longer hesitated. He told him everything about Su Yu's character and evil deeds. When everyone heard that this person was even more cruel and vicious than consort Yu's Fu family, he was unforgivably evil. He was simply a malignant tumor of the country. They could not help but worry about Wind Spirit's situation. If he had followed Su Yu of his own accord, then would he have been involved in all these bad things? If he had been forced, then how had he been all these years? Had he been living a difficult life? Or no one dared to think any further? Because no matter what the result was, it was not what they wanted to see. Water Spirit turned and knelt in front of her master. She gritted her teeth and said with red eyes, "Master, this subordinate requests permission to go to Luochen. Please allow it." She could not stand this feeling of unease. She wanted to find him right now. She was afraid that he would suffer, afraid that he would suffer. She was afraid of everything. She could not wait a moment longer. No matter what he became, he would still be the person she loved the most. Huling followed her and knelt down. "Master, this subordinate also requests permission." Ethereal also knelt down. This subordinate also requests permission. They had grown up together. They had taken care of each other wholeheartedly and had gone through life and death together. They were already closer than brothers. Now that they heard this news, how could they sit still? Xiao Su looked at the people kneeling before him. His eyes were as deep as the sea. "Do you think I'm not worried about Wind Spirit?" The three of them raised their heads to look at him. Their eyes were filled with tears. "Master, go and prepare. We will set off in 2 hours." "Yes." The three of them cried out in unison. Chapter 1656. With Xiao Su's order, everyone began to move. The entire courtyard became lively. Gong Sunshua looked at the busy people and then looked at Xiao Yao, who was beside her. There was a hint of struggle in her eyes, a hint of reluctance, and a hint of nostalgia, but no one noticed it. Xiao Yao was thinking about what the Ice Beauty had asked him about the irrigation works when she suddenly stopped and turned around to look at him. Before he could recover from his thoughts, he heard her say, "Xiao Yao, you don't need to think about those things anymore. I'm very grateful for your help these past few days. I wish you a smooth journey. I still have some urgent matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first." Without waiting for him to reply, Gong Sunshua turned around and left, as if she really was in a hurry. Xiao Yao calmed himself down. She had already reached the intersection in front, and there was no time to chase after her. Seeing her hurried footsteps, he rubbed his chin. Did she think that he was going to follow his royal brother to find Fengling and would never come back? He raised his eyebrows. After thinking it through, a trace of a smile flashed in his eyes. So, the Ice Beauty was reluctant to part with him? It seemed like the Ice Beauty wasn't as cold as she looked. His battles these past few days were still effective. She had already left, so he should go find his royal brother. Xiao Su was currently explaining something to Huling. When he saw him walk over with light steps and a happy mood, he revealed a rare look of surprise. "What are you so happy about?" Hearing his royal brother's question, Xiao Yao couldn't help rubbing his face. "Was it that obvious?" Huling interrupted with a smile. "It's all written on your face." Xiao Yao immediately straightened his face when he heard this, but he couldn't hide his happy mood and his lips couldn't help curling up. Xiao Su saw him like this and thought about how he was with Gong Su and Shua just now. He knew what was going on and didn't ask anymore. After Xiao Yao's joy passed, he thought about the business he came to find him for and calmed himself down. "Royal brother, I'm afraid I can't follow you this time." Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. "You want to stay here?" Xiao Yao chuckled. "Royal brother, you really are smart. You almost wrote it on your face," Xiao Su said indifferently. Xiao Yao didn't touch his face this time. Instead, he rubbed his hands and said in a negotiating tone, "Anyway, you have a lot of people, and I can't help. So, it doesn't make a difference whether I'm here or not. But it's different here. I can help, so I'll stay here for the time being." Xiao Su gave a rare smile. Since when have I ever restricted your freedom? If there's anything you want to do, just do it. You don't have to ask for my permission. Xiao Yao said embarrassedly. We came out together, so I have to tell you. Otherwise, Grandpa Emperor will accuse me of being a deserter. Xiao Su shook his head. Not necessarily. Maybe he'll be happier than anyone else if he knows that you're not leaving, but hearing these two buts, Xiao Yao's heart skipped a beat. What he worried about the most was that every time his brother said something wrong. But what? Xiao Su's smile disappeared, and he looked at his younger brother with a serious expression. You've been here for so many days. You should know the current situation of the Yu clan and how many dangers Gongsun Shui is in. If you're going to stay here, I hope that you'll consider everything carefully. Don't let yourself fall into a trap. Also, I'll leave some people with you to protect your safety. Hearing his brother's words, Xiao Yao was very touched. Others said that his brother was cold and cold-blooded, but only those close to him knew how affectionate and warm-hearted his brother was. To have such a brother, he felt that it was the blessing of his life. Royal brother, don't worry. I'm not an impulsive and irrational person. We grew up in the imperial family, and we know best how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. I'm still capable of that, but you don't have to leave anyone for me. It's more convenient for me to be alone. But, on your side, if you need people more than me, you can leave them for yourselves? Xiao Su nodded. After giving his instructions, he looked at his younger brother with a faint smile. Royal brother, why are you looking at me like that? I'm scared. As soon as Xiao Yao met his gaze, he immediately pulled himself away from being touched and hugged his arms, his entire body cold. Every time his brother looked at him like that, he had a bad premonition. This was because he remembered that he had been tricked by his brother to attend morning court. From then on, the carefree life of sleeping until late in the morning had left him. Xiao Su saw that he was like a bird startled by the twang of a bough and snorted. In the past, when I asked you to handle some court matters, you'd make all sorts of excuses. It was as if I wanted your life, so I had to think of some benefits for you. But now, you're volunteering yourself, and you're so busy that your feet don't even touch the ground. You're really my good younger brother. The words good younger brother made Xiao Yao shiver. However, he was indeed in the wrong in this matter. He immediately smiled and said, Royal brother, it's all thanks to your nurturing over the past few years. Otherwise, how could I have helped the ice beauty? So I still have to thank you. Xiao Su chuckled. Xiao Yao felt a headache coming on. This laugh made his heart tremble. Royal brother, it's better if you don't laugh. I can't stand it. Xiao Su looked at him coldly. You're useless. His brother was finally normal. Xiao Yao heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. It's not like you don't know my personality. I don't have much ambition. I'll just muddle along and enjoy myself. So, it doesn't matter if I'm useless or not. What's important is that I'm happy and comfortable. Xiao Su looked at him. Do you think you'll be comfortable here? I don't think so. Xiao Yao laughed. I'm used to going with the flow. Xiao Su ignored his hypocrisy and said, Take care of yourself. If there's anything, contact Pigeon Feather. Xiao Yao immediately stood at attention. Understood. Xiao Su was speechless at his playful actions. After Xiao Yao left, Xiao Su was about to turn around when he heard a familiar voice. Second brother, you not coming with us? He lowered his head to look at the source of the sound. His little fellow was standing under the tree, looking at him. Today, she was wearing a scarlet-red cloak with white fur. She looked cute and lovable, and it was extremely heartwarming. He immediately walked over and touched her hand. It was a little cold, so he couldn't help but put it in his palm to warm it up for her. Isn't it all within your expectations? Xiao Su chuckled softly. Feeling the warmth from his large hand, Chu Qingyan mischievously clasped her fingers with his and played with them. She looked up and smiled sweetly at him. Second brother and Miss Gongsun have been seeing each other quite frequently recently. It's not surprising at all that he's staying. It seems that second brother has really made up his mind. And what do you think? Chu Qingyan tilted her head and smiled. What can I think? I just hope that second brother can chase the beauty of his dreams soon. Xiao Su smiled and pinched her nose. You mischievous spirit. Chu Qingyan made a face at him. Let's go. We should set off. And Chapter 1657. Gong Xinxue sat in the study, holding a booklet in her hand. After leaving Xiao Su's courtyard, she had been sitting like this for more than an hour. The booklet was still the same. Not a single page had been flipped. Her gaze fell on the booklet, but she didn't know where her mind wandered off to. These days, Xiao Yao had been accompanying her. If he wasn't urging her to eat, he would be reviewing the booklets with her. In the past, it was a matter of one person. Now that he was here, she didn't feel that it was a hindrance. Instead, she felt that she was no longer alone. Moreover, he was a very smart person. He knew when to disturb her and when not to disturb her. Therefore, the two of them got along very well. In the Yu clan, if everyone didn't respect her, they wanted to harm her. Very few people could sit together with her. Without the restrictions of status, without the prejudice of the secular world, they could sit together from sunrise to sunset. However, from now on, she might have to return to how she was before he came. She would have to guard this lonely place alone for the rest of her life. Even though she clearly told herself that this was the end, she still felt a little reluctant. In the future, no one would tell her that she had to eat her 3 meals on time. In the future, no one would prepare desserts or flower tea for her. In the future, no one would chatter endlessly and liven up her surroundings. It turned out that in such a short time, he had already infiltrated her life and affected her habits. Unknowingly, she looked at the booklet in her hand. Today, she wasn't efficient at all. She hadn't even flipped a single page. She couldn't continue like this. She had to go back to square one. She put down the booklet and rubbed her forehead. She reached out for the teacup on the table. She wanted to drink a mouthful of tea to soothe her throat and calm her heart. She didn't raise her head, so she didn't notice that someone had put the teacup in her hand. She took the teacup and directly opened the lid to take a sip. Then, someone helped her take the teacup away and put it back. This action was very natural. It was only when she was about to pick up the brush to review the booklet again that she realized something was wrong. She suddenly raised her head and realized that the person who should have left was standing by her table. He was playing with the pearl that had just been delivered. "You haven't left yet?" She felt that she had lost her composure, so she calmed herself down and asked as if nothing had happened. Xiao Yao held the pearl against the sunlight outside and turned to look at her. He still had that annoying smile on his face. "You haven't left yet. The car is waiting at the door." Hearing this, Gong Xinxue felt a little disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face. She asked calmly, "Then what are you doing here?" As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Yao revealed a disappointed and hurt expression. He put down the pearl, as if the beautiful pearl could no longer attract his attention. His shoulders drooped as he looked at her, and his tone was very depressed. "Could it be that you want me to leave so badly? I just thought that since I've been here with you for a while, even if I'm leaving, I should come and tell you. I didn't expect you to want to drive me away." Gong Xinxue couldn't refute his accusation. Words that had been spoken were like water that had been poured out. She could only appease him properly. Otherwise, this person would definitely not forgive her. "I didn't mean that. Don't think too much about it. I just thought that you should be preparing to leave now. Why are you here?" When Xiao Yao heard this, he stole a glance at her. "Then let me ask you, do you really want me to leave?" As soon as he said this, Gong Xinxue was stunned. It could be said that she was at a loss for words. The answer to this question was obvious, but she didn't know how to tell him what she meant. He was already leaving. She didn't want to add to his burden. Since the result couldn't be changed, why should she tell him the truth? "You're still not leaving? Aren't you afraid that your big brother and the others will get anxious from waiting?" She avoided the topic. Her evasive gaze and shoddy ability to change the topic. He didn't need to answer to know what she was really thinking. Xiao Yao's heart was bursting with joy. These days of companionship had not been wasted. The ice beauty had obviously started to take him seriously, but he still had to work harder. "No hurry. My big brother and the others still have to pack up. I still have time to say goodbye to you." Gong Xinxue nodded. Actually, she hoped that he wouldn't appear again, because she was afraid that she would be even more reluctant to part with him. She didn't know what role he played in her life, but in these past few days, he had at least become her friend. Apart from her parents and master, he was the most important person to her. So she hoped that in the future, he would be safe, free, and happy. Xiao Yao's eyes flashed. "I'm about to leave. Why are you still so cold and indifferent? Don't you have anything to say to me? He wanted to take this opportunity to listen to the ice beauty's innermost thoughts. Be careful on the road. There are many things she wanted to say, but at this moment, she could only say this one sentence. Xiao put his hands on the table and leaned closer to her. Their eyes met, and his voice was low, with a bewitching gentleness. Nothing else? He suddenly approached her, leaving her with no place to retreat. She could only watch as he got closer and closer to her. At this moment, she couldn't hear anything other than her own heartbeat. She also wanted to say, if possible, could you stay? There are so many people looking for Wind Spirit, I don't need you. But I don't have anyone by my side. I need you more than anyone else. However, just as these words were about to rush to her throat, she heard a knock on the door, followed by a report from outside. Reporting to Sectmaster, the Xiao family has left. Left? Gongsun Shue's heart thumped. She narrowed her eyes and looked at a certain someone who was about to stand up and leave. Xiao, what's going on? Xiao wanted to hide it for a while, but who knew that someone would come out of nowhere and ruin his plan? He coughed lightly and said, It's just like what you heard. As soon as the words left her mouth, she understood. You tricked me. The other party gave her a comforting smile. Gongsun Shue said coldly, Xiao, how dare you? I just wanted to joke with you and see your reaction. Xiao immediately explained. Who would joke about such things? Xiao felt wronged. I just wanted to know if you're starting to see me as a friend, and if you can't bear to part with me. That's all. Gongsun Shue looked at him and was furious. She was tricked by him just now. If she didn't feel bad, how could she be fooled by him? Good, very good. Since that's the case, I'll let you know what a real reaction is. As soon as Gongsun Shue said this, Xiao had a bad feeling. As expected. Men, help me send second young Master Xiao to first young Master Xiao. Say that they left in a hurry and left second young Master Xiao here. Send him to them now. Xiao was stunned when he heard this. She could do this? He hadn't seen her for half a day, and the ice beauty had turned evil. Chapter 1658. As soon as Gongsun Shue finished speaking, someone came in. Second young Master Xiao, this way please. Xiao's mouth twitched. The ice beauty was serious. He hurriedly waved his hand to dismiss the attendant. He put away the smugness on his face and turned to face the ice beauty. He pleaded, I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Joking? Did he know that from just now, her mood had been fluctuating between heaven and hell, up and down? She was secretly conflicted and upset, but he came to tell her that it was just a small joke. Even someone who was not angry usually had the urge to tear him apart. Gongsun Shue smiled coldly, not wanting to talk to him. However, the disappointment and reluctance in her heart when she knew that he was going to leave had disappeared. At this moment, her heart was more relaxed and glad that this person did not leave her. Thus, she picked up the booklet and began to read it. After so long and wasting so much time, she had to finish reading all the booklets. Xiao saw that she was starting to deal with work and was not going to talk to him. He felt that something was wrong. This was the rhythm of the ice beauty's anger. If he did not calm her down quickly, she would probably not talk to him for the whole day. Don't be angry. I was wrong, okay? He leaned in front of her and said very sincerely. Gongsun Shue looked up and saw the sincerity in his bright eyes. It was like the twinkling stars in the sky, causing the depression in her heart to dissipate. Give me a reason. Why did you stay? This was what she did not understand. So from the beginning, she did not think that he would stay. She took this opportunity to ask him. Seeing that she was willing to talk to him, Xiao's lips curled up. However, he quickly suppressed it and put on a miserable look. He held his right hand with his left hand and said, You see, my injuries are not healed yet. I'm so weak. How can I withstand a long journey? What if my injuries get worse? So for safety's sake, I won't go with them. Gongsun Shue's eyes twitched. This answer was really Xiao. Xiao saw that she did not speak and felt uncertain. He then added, So, don't mind my joke just now. I'm still injured. Gongsun Shue snorted coldly in her heart. She felt that she could not let him off so easily. Otherwise, he would not learn his lesson. Since that's the case, you can go and rest. In the future, just stay in your room and recuperate. You don't have to come here, otherwise, you won't be able to recover well. Xiao Yao's eyes widened. This was not the result he wanted. If he couldn't come here in the future, then what was the point of him staying here? He had a headache. In the past, he was the one who made the ice beauty speechless. Now, the tables had turned. Who asked him to be in the wrong? It's just that my hand hasn't fully recovered. It's not that I can't walk. I know I was wrong. Why don't I accept the punishment? What do you think will help you vent your anger? Finally, Gongsun Shue's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile when she heard him say that. Her face was still cold and indifferent, which made Xiao Yao feel uncertain. When he was racking his brains to think of something to say, she opened her mouth. To teach you a lesson, you can eat by yourself in the future. Don't expect me to feed you. But the injury on my hand is still very serious. Xiao Yao put on an aggrieved look. Eating was the happiest time of his life because the ice beauty was gentle at that time. No matter how picky he was, she would silently feed him. If his benefit was gone, he would feel that the sky was dark. Is that so? Weren't you writing with your right hand a few days ago? Since you can write, eating shouldn't be a problem. Gongsun Shui was unmoved. If she didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't remember. Xiao Yao finally knew what it meant to shoot oneself in the foot. Previously, he was so pleased with himself that he forgot that he was injured. It was a moment of carelessness. He stole a glance at her and was about to say something when he heard her say, "No bargaining. Otherwise, you can go back to your room to recuperate. You can only come back when you're fully recovered." If he went back to his room, wouldn't he not be able to see her? Xiao Yao weighed the pros and cons and made a prompt decision. "I'll agree to anything you say, but I want to stay here with you." Gongsun Shui smiled in a place where he couldn't see. When it was time for dinner, Xiao Yao grabbed his bowl and looked at her pitifully. Gongsun Shui focused on eating and pretended not to see him. Xiao Yao knew that these methods were useless. He could only bitterly eat by himself. When there was no one around, Xiao Yao hid his right hand and muttered, "Go ahead, go ahead." Gongsun Shui looked at his back and shook her head as she laughed. She didn't know when it started, but this person could easily stir up her emotions. This was a feeling she had never experienced since she grew up. At this moment, the words he said earlier today echoed in her mind. He wanted to stay here with her. A warm current welled up in her heart. It was so warm that it made her feel warm all over on this winter day. Let's just leave it like this. Let her be willful for once in her last moments and grab onto that little bit of warmth. 5 days later, Chu Qingyan and the others arrived at Luocheng. The road was heavily guarded. If Wei Yu hadn't sent people to establish relations with them early on, it would probably take a few more days. When they entered the city, there were soldiers patrolling the streets. It was obvious that the people here were living in fear. They found an inn to stay in. After washing off the dust from the journey, they gathered in Chu Qingyan's room. "Master, Lord Wei provided us with a map of Su Yu's manor in Luocheng." Water Spirit handed over the map that Wei Yu's subordinates had sent over when they just entered the city. Xiao Su took it and glanced at it, then handed it back to Water Spirit. "Study the map tonight. Send people to inquire about Su Yu and the others in the city, as well as the situation of the manor's guards changing shifts. Tomorrow night, investigate the Su Manor." Yes. Water Spirit accepted the order and immediately went down. Hualing waited by the side for orders. "Hualing, increase the security. This Luocheng is not peaceful," Xiao Su said with a stern face. Hualing immediately nodded. When they entered the city just now, they found that the soldiers here could casually beat and scold the people, burn and rob the shops. It could be seen that these soldiers guarding the city had no integrity at all. They were not like the regular guards of the people. It would be more appropriate to call them bandits. So they had to increase the security. Otherwise, if the young princess was attacked by these bandits, they would not be able to absolve themselves from the blame, even if they died 10,000 times. Hualing and the others went down. Only Xiao Su's family of 3 was left in the room. At this time, Chu Qingyan felt her clothes being tugged. She lowered her head and saw her son looking at her with watery eyes. "Mother," Bai Yutong and the others have turned black. He pointed to the side as he spoke. At this time, the few squatting at the door walked in with drooping heads. Chu Qingyin then saw that their snow-white fur had turned black. Xiao Su saw this scene while drinking tea and explained faintly, "The snow wolves were too obvious, so I had ethereal dye them black." Chu Qingyin thought that was true. The soldiers here were too barbaric and overbearing. Maybe they would be jealous and want to snatch the glutinous rice balls when they saw them, causing unnecessary trouble. However, the Wolf King turned into a big dog. This blow, Bai Yutong and the others glared at Xiao Su. "Whoa, online translation in wolf language. We don't want to be dogs. Quickly return the white fur to us." Chapter 1659. Although Wei Yu provided quite a few people, Water Spirit and the others were still better at gathering information. So on the first night they arrived in Luo City, Xiao-like cavalry began to get busy. The next day, Chu Qingyin asked expectantly, "How is it? Did Su Yu find Wind Spirit's whereabouts?" Huoling's expression darkened slightly. "We found Su Yu's residence and asked around, but we couldn't find Wind Spirit's whereabouts. We asked the servants of the Su residence, but they all said that there is no such person as Wind Spirit in the residence. They also saw his portrait, but they didn't see him." "How could that be? Didn't they say that Wind Spirit appeared in the Su residence before?" Chu Qingyin's face was filled with disappointment. Huoling shook his head. "This subordinate isn't too sure either. From last night until today, the only news I received was that no one had seen him and no one had heard of him. It was as if this person had disappeared from the face of the earth, and all news was cut off." Xiao Su's eyes darkened. "We're only here for the first day, so there's no need to rush. Search slowly. Wait and see what news Water Spirit has. Speak of the devil, and he will appear." Water Spirit flew through the door, her face filled with disappointment. Everyone knew the result with a single look. This subordinate doesn't have any news. She looked at Huoling after saying that. Huoling shook his head at her, and her expression instantly dimmed. Chu Qingyin saw this and immediately cheered her on. "Water Spirit, His Highness said just now that we can't rush to find him. We have to take it slow. It's been 10 years, so what if we wait a few more days? We promise that as long as Wind Spirit is still in this city, even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, we will find him." Water Spirit nodded heavily. Xiao Su glanced at the two's tired expressions and said, "Since it's like this, the plan to investigate the Su residence at night will not change. You two go rest first and recharge your energy for tonight." Water Spirit and Huoling wanted to say that they didn't need to rest and could continue investigating, but with a glance from Xiao Su, they immediately shut up and went down without daring to delay. Chu Qingyin looked at the backs of the two of them as they left, her heart aching for them. Ever since they left Bright Jade City, she had yet to see them rest properly. They were constantly on the move, as if they didn't know what fatigue was. At this moment, she turned her head and happened to see Big Ice Cube frowning, his eyes cold. She couldn't help but reach out her hand and caress his forehead, smoothing out the creases on it. "You're so young. Why are you always frowning? Smiling makes you 10 years younger." Xiao Su relaxed his brows, following her gentle movements. He pulled down her hand and held it in his palm. He smiled helplessly at her. "I'm a little annoyed." "Are you worried about the Wind Spirits?" Chu Qingyin leaned her head on his arm and hugged his waist with both hands. She was very dependent on him. She had gradually become addicted to this action over the past few months. "Amen." Xiao Su lowered his head and kissed her hair. Then he gently stroked her hair and nodded. "The Wind Spirits have disappeared for 10 years. It's been too long, so long that I can't guarantee that when I see him again, he'll still be the same as before. In the Battle of Ci Shui Slope, the entire army was wiped out. Only he has news, but no one knows what he went through in the past 10 years. She raised her head to look at him. "You're worried that you won't be able to give Water Spirit a perfect Wind Spirit, right?" Xiao Su was silent for a while before slowly nodding. If that's the case, I don't know if Water Spirit will collapse. The two of them are my most trusted companions. They've been by my side for many years, through wind and rain. No matter who it is, I don't want them to be hurt. He had never said these words to anyone, but he knew that this little fellow was not an outsider and could share his thoughts with her. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but hug his arm. These past few days, she knew that he hadn't slept well, but since he didn't say anything, she didn't ask. After so many years of tacit understanding, she knew that when it was time to say it, he would tell her. Her heart felt a slight stab of pain. It was incomparably painful, but this kind of thing, there was no way to comfort him. It was a fact that the wind spirits had disappeared for 10 years. It was also a fact that Water Spirit deeply loved the wind spirits. If the heavens pitied them and allowed them to reunite. But if this reunion was exchanged for great suffering, it would probably become a tragedy in their lives. She could understand the big ice cube's worries. If such a thing really happened, then he would have to bear a great deal of self-blame and guilt. Big Ice Cube, don't think too much. Maybe it won't be as bad as we think. She tightly hugged his arm. Her eyes were slightly wet, but her tone was soft and gentle. Xiao hugged her and sighed softly. I hope so. If words couldn't comfort him, then he could only accompany him. In the dead of night, Xiao Lai returned to report on his mission. He had searched the Su estate in the night and returned without any results. Could it be that the information from Wei Yu's side was wrong? Hualing pulled down the mask on his face full of doubt. Water Spirit tightly pursed her lips. She also didn't know what was going on. Xiao narrowed his eyes. Have you searched everywhere? Hualing wanted to nod, but then he hesitated before saying, We've searched all the courtyards and rooms. Water Spirit continued, We've searched all the rooms on the surface, but we haven't found any secret passages or hidden places yet. However, for Suyu to be able to sit in this position, other than being vicious and merciless, he is also a cautious person. In the capital city's estate, there are at least 2 secret passages and 3 secret rooms. Here, if there isn't a secret room or passage in the estate, then it doesn't make sense. Xiao Su's face sunk. Continue the investigation. We'll search the Su estate again tomorrow night. Wei Yu's clues all point here, so it shouldn't be without reason. Wind Spirit's whereabouts must be related to Suyu. If we still haven't found anything by tomorrow night, continue the search until we find some clues. This was because no one knew what the relationship between Wind Spirit and Suyu was. Otherwise, according to Xiao Lai Cavalry's usual style, they would directly capture Suyu and the people around him and interrogate them. However, the relationship between the Sun Moon clan and Suyu is now tense, and Suyu and Jin Xian were mortal enemies. They couldn't reveal their identities and alert the enemy, which could also cause trouble for Jin Xian. That was why they had been investigating in the dark all this time. This subordinate obeys. Water Spirit and Hualing stood upright as they received the order. There was no news for 3 days. On the 4th day, Hualing hurried back. After he gasped for breath, he quickly said, Master, this subordinate has found Feng Ling's whereabouts. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyin looked at him in surprise. Where? Hualing took a deep breath and said in one breath, This subordinate has investigated the people who are closely related to Su Yu these past 2 days. One of them is his niece, Gongsun Fei, who is also sect Master Gongsun's cousin. This subordinate found out that a few days ago, someone saw a wind spirit in Gongsun Fei's estate. Although the servant said that he was a little far away, he was still able to recognize him. Gongsun Fei. Chu Qingyin looked at the person beside her in surprise. How did Wind Spirit get involved with Gongsun Fei? Chapter 1660. The name Gongsun Fei, they had heard quite a few rumors about her in the palace. Although this person was Gongsun Shue's cousin, her behavior was completely different from the calm and steady Gongsun Shue. She had a fierce personality, but she did not have a head for politics. Simply put, she was all brawn and no brains, so she was easily manipulated by others. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that this person liked men very much. Although she was the same age as Gongsun Shui, she was different from Gongsun Shui's empty harem. After this person reached marriageable age, she began to use her status to search for beautiful men. Whenever she went out, there would be at least 3 to 5 male attendants accompanying her. Wherever she went, there would be good wine and beautiful men. It wasn't as if she had never tried to steal men from commoners before. Even if she had her eyes on some little fresh meat from the civil and military officials, she would still steal them. It was said that many people were angry at her, but did not dare say anything. In Chu Qingyin's impression, this person was just like the second generation of the royal family. She relied on her power to commit all kinds of crimes, but this person was a woman. So when she heard that she was related to Wind Spirit, Chu Qingyin's first thought was that this person wouldn't have taken a liking to Wind Spirit's beauty, right? This was because in the fierce cavalry, the 6 spirits of metal, wood, fire, earth, wind, and space were all top-notch handsome men. If they weren't hidden behind the scenes, they would have swept away all those young masters. Among the 6 spirits, Wind Spirit was the strongest and also the most handsome, so Chu Qingyin could not be blamed for being worried. Does Water Spirit know about this matter? Hualing shook his head and quietly said, with Gongsun Fei's bad reputation, how could this subordinate dare let her know about this matter first? Chu Qingyin nodded. That's true. If it was her, no matter if Gongsun Fei did anything or not, she would not be able to hold herself back and directly ask for her. How could she care about the bigger picture or alerting the enemy? No one can touch my people. Who cares about the consequences? They didn't know where Wind Spirit was before, but now that they knew he was related to this infamous person, Chu Qingyin and Fire Spirit couldn't sit still. They both looked at the pillar in front of them. Xiao Su received their earnest, pleading eyes. He thought for a while and said with a comforting tone, "This matter hasn't been decided yet. Don't scare yourself." The two of them calmed down a little. Xiao Su said to Hualing, "Don't tell Water Spirit about this for now. Just send people to investigate the people around Gongsun Fei. It would be best if they can infiltrate her palace and then investigate whether Wind Spirit is really in her palace." Hualing immediately nodded. This subordinate understands. Without any concrete information, I will not let Water Spirit know about this matter. If he ended up scaring himself in the end, wouldn't the losses outweigh the gains? Xiao Su continued. The investigation of the Su estate cannot be stopped. Continue to investigate double insurance. After receiving the order, Hualing immediately went to carry it out. Only Chu Qingyin and Xiao Su were left in the room. Xiao Su saw that she was still thinking about this matter and couldn't help reaching out to pull her into his embrace. These days, her body had become a bit heavy and her mind was a bit lacking. He thought about how he had been busy with Wind Spirit and neglected her. He couldn't help blaming himself as he softly said, "Don't think too much. Didn't you just say you were tired? Go rest on the couch for a bit." In fact, she was really forcing herself to stay awake. At this moment, listening to Big Ice Block's deep and pleasant voice was like a lullaby to her, causing her to feel sleepy, and she couldn't help but yawn, but she still tried to keep her eyelids open and said, "Big Ice Block, I hope that the Water Spirit and the Wind Spirit can be happy and smooth, without any twists and turns." Xiao Su gently patted her back, and his eyes were as deep as the sea. "They will. Even if they don't, I will do my best to create one for them." Hearing him say that, Chu Qingyin was relieved and gradually closed her eyes. Hearing the steady breathing of the person in his embrace, Xiao Su bent down and carried her horizontally. He walked softly to the couch and put her down. After covering her with a blanket, Xiao Su sat by the bed and brushed away the fine strands of hair on her forehead as he quietly watched over her. In this period of time, he had spent too little time with her. Once the matter with Wind Spirit was settled, he would put all his attention on her and Kong Kong. There was a fluctuation in the air, and Xiao Su's ears twitched. He turned his head and accurately caught the little figure who was stumbling over the threshold. Xiao Su's furrowed brows immediately loosened. Seeing the little figure panting as he ran in front of him, his eyes were filled with warmth. Little Kong Kong was just about to call out to his father, but seeing that his mother was already asleep he immediately greeted in a small voice, "Daddy, baby is here." Xiao Su's lips curled up. Secretly eating pastries again? Little Kong Kong's eyes widened, and he immediately covered his mouth in shock. "Father, how did you know? Don't tell me you have son Wukong's fiery golden eyes?" Xiao Su smiled. Wasn't it because he secretly ate without wiping his mouth? His face was covered in crumbs. Because his son was still young, the little fellow had a strict diet. Usually, he could not eat more than 3 pieces of pastries. He had already finished his portion this morning. Now that there were crumbs on his face, he could only say that he secretly ate them. He took his son's hand and walked to the basin. He wrung out a clean cloth and personally wiped his face. Little Kong Kong did not hear his father's reply and thought that his father was angry. He anxiously confessed, "Baby secretly ate 2 pieces at grandfather's place today." He stuck out 2 fingers and stuck out his tongue. "Daddy, don't be angry. Baby will eat less in the future. I won't secretly eat anymore." Xiao Su helped him wipe his hands and said, "Do you know why your mother doesn't let you eat more pastries? Is it because you can't afford them?" Hearing this, little Kong Kong puffed up his cheeks and seemed to have realized something. He replied softly, "No, it's because baby is young. Mother said that if a child eats too much sweets, his teeth will spoil. Mother is doing it for baby's good. That's why baby doesn't eat more." Xiao Su retracted his hand and placed the cloth beside the basin. He stood up straight with his hands behind his back and said to him seriously, "You know the reason, so the one you should apologize to is not me, but your mother. You have failed to live up to her trust." Little Kong Kong nodded, as if he understood. Baby understands. When mother wakes up, baby will apologize to her. Baby will not eat more pastries in the future. Baby will be obedient in the future. Xiao Su revealed a gentle smile and carried him up. "Your mother is resting. Let's go out and not disturb her." Little Kong Kong immediately covered his mouth and nodded. His soft voice came out from between his fingers. "Baby has learned a few words in the past 2 days. Can I write for Daddy?" Since the last time he brought his son to teach him, his son had already learned how to use a brush. Xiao Su nodded in satisfaction. "Okay." Little Kong Kong happily hugged his neck. "Daddy, let's go to the study." Xiao Su chuckled softly. His son was so motivated, so as his father, he naturally cooperated. Hence, the two of them slowly walked forward. Chapter 1661. 2 days passed. Su Yu's side had not found Feng Ling's whereabouts, but Gongsun Fei's side had some clues. It could be said to be accurate news. Xiao Su, Chu Qingyan, Sima Jun, Ji Lin Yang, and the others were all present, listening to Huo Ling's report of the situation. This subordinate has found that Feng Ling is currently in Gongsun Fei's residence, but he's been imprisoned. The place of imprisonment is very well hidden, but this subordinate has not been able to find out where he's been imprisoned. After Huo Ling finished speaking, Water Spirit couldn't help but ask, "Why is this Gongsun Fei imprisoning him?" Huo Ling revealed a difficult expression when he heard this. Originally, he wanted to hide this matter from Water Spirit, but she was the one in charge of intelligence in the Fierce Cavalry. He had been investigating Gongsun Fei for the past 2 days, so he couldn't hide it from her. That was why she was present today. The answer to her question was self-evident. With Gongsun Fei's evil reputation, what reason could there be? Huo Ling sighed. He knew that he couldn't get past her no matter what, so he could only tell the truth. Feng Ling came to North Korea 10 years ago. As for how he came here, they hadn't found out yet, but it was definitely related to Su Yu, because Feng Ling had been in Su Yu's residence for the past 10 years. Perhaps it was because Su Yu knew that his identity was special, so not many people knew about Feng Ling. However, no one knew why he was imprisoned for 10 years. However, some time ago, Gongsun Fei went to Su Yu's residence and coincidentally saw Feng Ling. She pestered Su Yu to cede Feng Ling to her. Su Yu couldn't persuade her, so he could only send him to her residence. So this was why Wei Yu had provided the information that the person was in Su Yu's residence. But they couldn't find him even after digging 3 feet into Su Yu's residence. If Huo Ling hadn't arranged for people to infiltrate Gongsun Fei's residence, they wouldn't have been able to find traces of Feng Ling, let alone find so many clues. That's too terrifying. He was actually imprisoned for 10 years. What is this, Su, you trying to do? Cheng Yinluo couldn't help but exclaim in surprise after hearing this. Ethereal speculated. Judging from the way he acts, Su Yu is not a righteous person. If he discovers Wind Spirit's ability, it is not impossible for him to take the opportunity to obtain something from him. Ji Linyang nodded. Ethereal's words aren't without reason. Fengling is the most outstanding cavalry leader of the fierce cavalry, so he must have some outstanding qualities. Su Yu has been plotting to usurp the throne for a long time and needs a wide range of talents. Perhaps he saw something in Fengling and brought him to his side, but Fengling refused to obey, which is why he was imprisoned for so many years. Everyone agreed with Ji Linyang's speculation. If that was the case, then it made sense why the Wind Spirit didn't return to find them, even though he was still alive. The heavens have pity on us. Who knows how much Fengling has suffered for so many years? After becoming pregnant, Sima Jun became more melancholic and couldn't help but sigh. Water Spirit was silently enduring at the side. When she heard this, her eyes reddened and she knelt in front of her master. This subordinate doesn't know how he has survived for so many years. This subordinate only pleads with master to let this subordinate bring people directly to Gongsun Fei to ask for him. It was fine if this subordinate didn't know before, but now that this subordinate knows, this subordinate cannot sit idly by and let him be bullied by others. Gongsun Fei is a vicious and merciless person. This subordinate is afraid that if we wait any longer, who knows how much more he will suffer. When he heard Huoling's report of the situation, Xiao Su's expression was already very ugly. When he heard Water Spirit's words, he restrained his expression and raised his hand to have Huoling help her up. I can understand your feelings, but now is not the time to be impulsive. Although Gongsun Fei's ability is not enough, a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Moreover, she has Su Yu behind her, so we must plan for the long term. Chu Qingyan also said, your master is right. For now, we must know where Fengling is and whether or not he is in danger. If we act rashly, I'm afraid that someone will find our weakness and hurt Fengling. Water Spirit was startled. The agitation and anger in her body seemed to have dissipated in an instant. Her expression dimmed, and she seemed to have lost her soul. She knew that her master and the young princess were right, and she also knew that she couldn't do anything now. She hated her own incompetence. She clearly knew that he was suffering, but she couldn't do anything. Looking at the depressed and sorrowful Water Spirit, everyone felt their hearts ache. But now, other than giving her Fengling, no amount of comfort could help her. Xiao Su directly ordered, Huoling, you have full authority to deploy people. Do your best to find where Fengling is being held. Once you find him, immediately rescue him. Yes. Huoling pursed his lips and replied. There was already news of Fengling, but it made everyone's head feel like it was covered in a layer of dark clouds. Especially when Xiao Su told Water Spirit to stop what she was doing and hand everything over to Huoling, telling her not to participate. She silently handed over her authority and turned to leave. That thin figure left in everyone's eyes, and it was very painful. Everyone knew that she was not suitable to participate in the search in her current state. So in order to prevent her from being impulsive, Xiao Su stopped everything she was doing. But when he saw her dispirited appearance, his heart still couldn't bear it. Water Spirit is a reasonable person. She won't blame you. Chu Qingyan comforted him. Xiao Su touched her face. I know, Fengling's life was in danger in Gongsun Fei's hands, but he could only sit and wait for news. The only thing he could do now was to protect Water Spirit for Fengling. He couldn't let her die. In the palace of the capital, Gongsun Shui finished reading the letter and pinched the space between her eyebrows. This Su Yu was too daring. He actually had ideas about the Ri clan at this time. Not only did he secretly send troops to the border between the two clans to take the opportunity to attack the Ri clan, but he also planned to bribe the Ri clan's generals. Did he not know that Murong Yunxian was strict in his management of the army? And after his persecution, The Ri clan had long been dissatisfied with the Yu clan. He dared to have such a plan? He was really delusional. Thinking of this, she put down the letter, and her gaze fell on the person not far away. She found that he was in a daze. What are you thinking about? Xiao heard her voice and came back to his senses. He smiled faintly at her. I'm thinking about how Big Brother and the others are doing. Wei Yu said that they have found Feng Ling's whereabouts. Gongsun Shui said. Xiao Yao was delighted. That's great. I believe they will be able to reunite with Feng Ling soon. Seeing the sincere smile on his face, Gongsun Shui's heart skipped a beat. She blurted out, let's go to Luocheng too. What? Xiao Yao was so happy that he didn't pay attention to what she said. He couldn't help but ask. Go and pack your things. We will leave for Luocheng tomorrow. Xiao Yao didn't react. Why would the Ice Beauty suddenly have such an idea? Didn't she say that she was busy with court matters and couldn't leave? Gongsun Shui glanced at him indifferently. If you don't go back and pack, I will go alone. Well, I will go and prepare now. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yao's figure disappeared from his seat. Gongsun Shui smiled and shook her head. However, she quickly stopped smiling. Some things should be resolved. She couldn't delay any longer. She didn't have much time left. Chapter 1662. When night fell, Hualing held the few clues in his hand, and his expression was a bit ugly. Sir, although Gongsun Fei is not a shrewd person, she is quite vigilant. In the palace, there are many places with restrictions. The people that infiltrated the palace cannot enter. The subordinate said in a regretful voice. Hualing nodded. Are there any places that are suspicious? The subordinate immediately spread out a map of Gongsun Fei's palace and pointed at several places. The warehouse, Gongsun Fei's main room, and these places are all heavily guarded. Hualing raised his hand and pointed at a place. Where is this? This is Gongsun Fei's inner courtyard. It is filled with beautiful men that she gathered from various places. There are also some that were sent by local officials to curry favor with her. There are at least 40 to 50 of them. Those that are favored have one room each, and those that are not favored often have 2 or 3 people in a room. This place is the largest other than Gongsun Fei's main room. When the subordinate answered this question, he did not hide his disdain at all. This was because they had been with their master and the little princess and had been assimilated. They did not like having 3 wives and 4 concubines, having 3 husbands and 4 attendants, especially this kind of despicable act of stealing men. Hualing taunted, this woman really does not have any sense of shame. When we say Feng Ling, we will definitely properly take care of her. The subordinate nodded heavily. They looked down on people that bullied others the most. Hualing circled a few places and then said, we can't just sit here and wait for death. We'll investigate these places tonight. If we don't find anyone, we'll continue tomorrow night. This subordinate will have the brothers that infiltrated the palace prepare to receive them. Good. Send out the order. We'll move at 1 in the morning. Yes. After his subordinates left, Hualing looked at the map and thought to himself with a headache. Tonight's operation, he absolutely couldn't let Shui Ling know about it. Although his master had forbidden her from participating in this operation, according to her temperament, she wouldn't be so obedient. This worry lasted until the middle of the night. There was no movement from Water Spirit's side. Hualing was not assured and asked the subordinate in charge of taking care of her, is Water Spirit still in her room? Sir, Water Spirit is still in her room. After coming back today, she did not come out again. Hualing felt that this was not Water Spirit's personality, but he still let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps she had listened to his master's words. Thus, he ordered, let's go. The dozen or so people moved in unison towards Gongsun Fei's residence. Their speed was as fast as the night wind, and their movements were light and silent. Soon, everyone arrived outside the mansion walls. According to the previous arrangement, 3 or 4 people in a group would scout the area at night. Hualing made a hand gesture, and everyone immediately dispersed. Liu Guang, sweet potato, let's go. Hualing said to the 2 behind him. Yes. When Hualing was about to jump over the wall, he suddenly stopped. He He suddenly turned around and stared at the person beside him. "You're not sweet potato." Huoling's confident tone and doubtful expression made Lu Guang look at the person who had been silent all the way. The masked man hesitated for a moment before taking off the cloth covering his face. "It's me." Flowing Light's eyes widened. "Lady Water's spirit. What about sweet potatoes?" "I locked him up in the room." Huoling sighed with a frown. "I just knew that you wouldn't be at ease waiting in the mansion." Water Spirit's fingers tightly gripped the cloth covering her face as she said with a firm expression, "Huoling, I believe that you can understand my feelings. I hope that you won't stop me." Huoling helplessly looked at her. "Even if I stop you, you won't be able to go in?" Water Spirit shook her head. "I won't. Since I'm here, I won't return empty-handed." Because she was in charge of gathering information, she always dressed like a woman from the dust world. Only in front of Feng Ling would she act like a shy little girl. But after Feng Ling left, they had never seen her true smile. She was charming in front of people, but she was cold and lonely behind them. After the battle at C.I. Shui's slope, not only did it take the lives of the several hundred fierce cavalry, it also took away the light in her eyes. Now that she was facing the sky, without makeup and had washed herself clean, she was wearing a set of black clothes. Her eyes were filled with longing for her lover, completely different from normal. She was still the same person, but there was light in her eyes. How long had it been since he had seen her this serious and reckless? As her older brother, how could Huoling have the heart to reject her request? "Forget it. I'll just go back and find my master to punish me." Water Spirit never thought that he would be convinced this easily. She had prepared a stomach full of words, but it was a bit hard to believe. He shook his head and turned to the stunned Water Spirit as he said, "Don't be in a daze. There isn't much time left. Go, go, go. We're going to explore the back courtyard of this licentious princess. Who knows how many beautiful men are hidden inside." Water Spirit revealed a grateful smile and jumped into the wall with him. Gongsun Fei's back courtyard was not only big, but it was also very luxurious. People couldn't help thinking of the phrase, "a golden house is hiding a mistress," but it was only hiding men. The three of them looked at each other and began to search room by room. Huoling moved the tiles and used the light from inside to look inside. There are two people living inside, currently talking to each other. "Brother Lu, when will we be able to leave this damn place? I really don't want to serve this female bandit," a man with a delicate face said in a hateful voice. The other man, with a resolute face, tightly clenched his fist as he said, "I don't know either. I really miss my wife and son right now. If it wasn't for this female bandit stealing me from the streets, I would have been able to catch my son tomorrow." The people inside continued to talk. Huoling had already closed the tiles and shook his head at Water Spirit. "Let's go." She had also heard the words inside. She pursed her lips and stood up. On the way here, they had heard quite a few similar words. If it wasn't for the fact that they didn't know where Feng Ling was locked up, she would have pulled out her sword and cut down Gongsun Fei. "Endure it." Huoling patted her shoulder. "Good and evil will be repaid in the end. If you don't believe, look up and see who the heavens forgive." Water Spirit suppressed the anger in her heart and nodded. "Let's go to the next courtyard." At this time, Huoling reached out to stop Water Spirit's movements. His voice was filled with joy. "There's news from Lu Guang's side." Shui Ling immediately followed Yang Kai's line of sight, and a signal flashed. It was their contact method. "Let's go." Water Spirit took the lead and flew off. Huoling chased after her and advised in a low voice, "Don't rush. It won't be good if the guards are alerted." Water Spirit immediately slowed down when she heard this and bit her lip. Although she was extremely anxious, she couldn't put her companions in danger because of her own selfishness. The two of them quickly found Lu Guang. He was currently in a room with two men in his hands. "What is going on here?" Huoling looked at the two of them and directly asked Lu Guang. Lu Guang replied. The two of them mentioned a person in their conversation that seemed to be Sir Feng Ling, so this subordinate boldly detained them. Water Spirit heard this and immediately turned to face the two of them. Her body couldn't help trembling as she said in a hoarse voice, "You know Feng Ling? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.